Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers, most of the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events. And I want to welcome you to our program in which I take an individual horror film and me and my special guests sit down, relax, have a conversation about that movie. Sometimes we get really critical about that movie, and sometimes we analyze it just a little bit.
I thought you were going to say we're going to get really crazy about the movie, where we
Well,
get critical about it. So,
critical, crazy. We kind of do a little bit of both, don't you think, on this program? And for everyone out there, that is our esteemed guest for today's episode, Mr. Dave Watkins. But I also want to bring in Mr. Thomas Tenorello. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this. Going to be a very interesting episode in which we discuss the movie Warlock from 1989, directed by Steve Miner.
I was surprised at that too. I forgot he directed this movie.
No. What I forgot is that David Flahy freaking wrote it.
Well, apparently it's pronounced Tui.
Is that how you see? I've always pronounced it wrong then.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I had to look it up on IMDb.
I'm glad I didn't even say the name at all, so I would have definitely gotten it wrong. So,
Generally speaking, I really love a lot of the stuff that he's written and directed. And so I kind of forgot about this movie because it's been a long time since I've seen it. So we're gonna get right into this one. Oh, but before we get into talking about it, I do want you all to know that since this is part of our franchise themed month, we will have episodes of each and every one of the films in this franchise. So you can go out there and listen to each one of these episodes all today, as they're all being released today. And we do hope that you have a very good time listening to us talk about the films in the Warlock franchise.
and there's only three. There's only three films in this one.
Only
so,
three,
yeah.
only three, but they're all flawless, right, guys?
Oh yeah. So, and there are only three of them, and you're going to have like three-hour conversations about each one of them. So, set aside like 9 hours to listen to this.
Oh yeah, there's so many layers. We're going deep, man.
Oh my God. So I do have to ask, because of this movie, when was the first time you kind of saw it? What was your initial impressions of this film? And who we gonna start? Let's start with you, Dave.
So we talked about this a little bit before, but I think all of us saw it on TV or either VHS, maybe both. But I remember, I think I taped it off of TV. There was another Warlock movie too that's a Western that has like Richard Widmark in it.
Yeah.
And it was like, I actually taped that one time and I was like, this isn't the movie that I thought it was going to be. Is that? but this one, but this one is really the thing that stood out to me the most was Julian Sand's character, the Warlock character. But it was my kind of introduction to him, and I've watched a bunch of his other films after that. But I like this movie though. Even the first time I saw it, I like rewatching it too. So I watched it again a few years ago. I didn't like it as much, but when I watched it this time, I was back to liking it again, kind of similar to the way I used to like it. So.
Aw, that's funny.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you why. Like I think when I was watching it again, I read something about it that kind of took away the fun from it. But we'll get into that, unfortunately, here in a little bit. So.
Oh no, I think I might know what you're talking about, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll figure it out if I'm right or not.
Yeah, but it's also bad too. Rest in peace, Julian Sands, who died, I think, last year.
Yeah,
It was like he was missing. Like he was like climbing in this. Can't remember exactly where it was. It was some kind of winter location, and he was missing for like a month. And I was like, man, I hope they find him. I kept every day. I kept looking. I was like, maybe they found him. And then they did find him, and he didn't make it. So unfortunately, I hated to hear that.
Oh yeah, same here. So what about you, Thomas? What's your story behind this movie?
Well, Mr. Kevin L. Powers, I saw this movie on HBO, I think, as a kid, and it struck my middle school imagination, I'm sure, because after I saw it, I remember distinctly I made like a story where a time-traveling warlock with a green like magic orb attached to a cane, which I made myself from those bouncing like Super Ball type things back in the 90s. Well, we had one that was like green and had glitter inside it. And I thought it was fascinating. I would like shine a light through it and see all the swirly patterns and stuff we make on the wall. And I thought this thing could be magic. So what I ended up doing was now I remember. Oh, memory unlocked. I went as a warlock for Halloween one time
Okay.
because of this movie, but I didn't look anything like Julian Sands. What I did was I just took this green Super Ball, this like emerald green Super Ball, and I basically dug a hole in the bottom of it and took a whatever that long little plastic stick, that bendy stick that's on blinds that you turn to open and close the blinds. I don't know what the technical name for that is, but I took one of those down and I wrapped it up in black electrical tape and then stuck it inside the up the hole that I made in the Super Bowl and created a magic stick or a magic scepter from that. And that was my costume, and like black slick back hair or something, because I don't have blonde locks like Julian Sands does.
Right. You needed a wig. You needed a wig for that one, I guess.
Yeah. And I was not gonna find one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was at Warlock for Halloween one year, and I had this whole story with this character that like he tried to take over the world by climbing to the top of the Jewish Community Center in the town where I grew up, because at the time where I lived, in St. Petersburg, Florida, where the Jewish Community Center was like the tallest building I could see for miles around, because I lived nowhere near Tampa, which is where you get the real megapolis looking buildings. And I had this whole like idea of what he could do and stuff like that. And so I guess, that was my first impressions of this. And I don't think I ever watched it all the way through, because like there's a point in this movie where pretty much my memories start, which is like pretty much right around the time where they're in the farmhouse.
That farmhouse sequence is awesome. That's the part. That's the part that I remember the best too. Yeah, that's the middle. That's the middle part of the film too. Yeah. So for me, there's really three parts of the film, because they're kind of on a quest to get the three pieces of the book. It's a road trip. Yeah. So that was my first blush seeing this. And it wasn't until I was way older where I finally saw the whole thing all the way through and had context for it and everything, and rewatched it again this afternoon. So right. And it's pretty great. It's pretty good.
So I remember when this movie actually came out at the theater. Because I remember this is one of the films that back in the me and our other guest on the show, John Conkle, we used to cut out the ads for the movies back in the day. He fortunately has kept all his. Mine have all gone the way of being recycled and thrown in the trash.
You clip the ads from the newspaper is what you're saying. Because it sounded almost like you're recording it with a VHS tape and you're cutting it out, because that's what I did.
No. So I remember when this movie came out. I remember when it came out on video, because we rented it as soon as it came out. And because I had never seen anything like this before, because I do not recall ever watching a movie with male witches / warlocks. And there's even that scene in this movie, which I remember clearly, with the kid saying that there's no such thing as male witches. And of course, he has to be taught a lesson in this movie, and I love this movie. I knew who Julian Sands was, and I knew who Laurie Singer was. I did not know who Richard E. Grant was at the time I saw this movie.
Same here. That was the first time I ever saw him in anything.
I don't know if this is the first time I saw him, but I even after this movie, I don't really think I recognized him for a while until I saw him in Hudson Hawk. I know, start laughing now, guys.
Oh gosh, that's right. He was the bad guy in that movie.
Yes. So I do.
He's a really great actor. You ever see with Nell and I?
Yes, great movie. Movie.
That's what got him recognized for this. That's what Stephen Miner wanted to cast him. Julian Sands said that when they were casting him, they said Sean Connery was going to play that part that Richard Grant plays, but apparently they sent Sean Connery the script, and he never heard anything about it. So, but that was kind of when they were trying to get Julian Sands to be in it. They're like, Sean Connery's going to do that part.
I can't imagine Sean Connery getting his brogue around the dialogue in that movie. That would have been a disaster.
He would have gotten top billed for it though. Would have been completely different.
He would have got top bill, probably and he probably would have done it too. I can't remember when the Highlander 2, the Quickening came out, but Sean Connery did do movies like this. You could see him doing a movie like this, back like that.
So, they tried to attract him, but it didn't work out. But the director, I was listening to his interview, he said, Steve Miner said, he always wanted Richard Grant. He actually knew him from With Nell and I, and that was like he targeted him on purpose. But the producers probably wanted Sean Connery.
Producers always want a big star.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad they stuck with who they have here now.
Yeah.
When I rewatched it, you know, Richard E. Grant's performance actually it really still holds up extremely well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what's funny? What's funny is I feel like at the time, weirdly enough, Laurie Singer was the biggest star in the cast because she was very well known from Footloose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why that's why I said I knew who Laurie Singer was when this movie came out. And I followed her career for a while until she did that show VR5, which I know no one fucking remembers.
I remember it. I was gonna ask you about it actually. I was gonna be like, hey Kevin, you remember this really weird, obscure show Laurie Singer did in the late 90s on UPN called VR5, where she's like a detective or something and she can get into people's brains in their minds by using VR, which nowadays would be make her like a super villain.
Yes, I followed her for a long time, and most of a lot of stunts that she did because Footloose was one of my favorite movies back when I was a little kid. I used to love that freaking movie. But this movie here, I was like, dude, it had Julian Sands and it had Laurie Singer, and I was all aboard. And Warlocks and horror, and, you know. It's just a boon for me that one of my favorite composers did the music because I had to get the soundtrack for this because Jerry Goldsmith did it. My all-time favorite composer, may rest in peace because now it's like Hans Zimmer. Yeah. My favorite living one is Hans Zimmer now, but back then Jerry Goldsmith was the man. I listened to every soundtrack that he ever did, and I still love the soundtrack to this movie. When I was rewatching it, I was like, oh man, this movie's still so awesome. Oh.
He really does like that theme. That
it works though
a lot.
Yeah, it makes it sound epic though when you hear that theme. It's like, man, this is some epic shit going on here.
I can't imagine this ever being a movie that was designed to be this huge blockbuster movie, especially in the late 80s. You know, we saw a lot of these odd movies that were not like meant to be blockbusters, but got big theatrical releases, or what we would consider theatrical releases, and they just made enough money to cover the budget back and maybe get a small cult following, like this film did, obviously, because there was several sequels. And
we did like Stephen Miner said that they had about a $20 million budget, so his budget was pretty decent for the time.
Really?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's $20 million was a lot for back then. What did they spend it on? Because the effects, some of them didn't seem like they spent it that much.
Yeah.
Well, he does say that they did everything practical.
Yeah.
For the most part, the stuff that's not practical is pretty bad. But it's like, but yeah, he said like a few years later it would have been CGI, you know. But
yeah, I feel like they had a whole lot more money with the second one, and those effects were really good.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think this film made with the period scenes and the costume design, I think is all extremely well done because
that's what it was. They spent it all on the 1600 stuff.
Right, but yeah, it's hilarious. Like that 1600 stuff. He said that there was like a pilgrim village. I think maybe in Massachusetts or something. But it was actually a real village that is a like a replica village, and they didn't tell them they were shooting a horror movie there. And once they figured it out after they already shot it, they were pissed. And they won't let anybody shoot there anymore after that. They said they got some pushback. But
I'll bet. But I don't think that village had a witch tower in it though.
No. But
they had to have built that.
But that was a set. The scenes with Julian Sands was a set. But then when they're out on the street in front of it, but I'm going to say on the Wikipedia it does say $15 million budget. So Stephen Miner might have been mistaken on the amount of the budget.
Yeah, I don't think he was remembering that very well. Yeah.
But it's still $15 million is a pretty good bit of money. It only made $9 million in the box office, so it lost money. But it made money back on VHS sales. And
that's what it was. Yeah, back in the days when a VHS rentals and sales could save a movie.
Oh yeah,
you couldn't do that nowadays.
No.
Without the VHS sales of trimmers, we wouldn't have had like 7 other trimmers after the first one, dude.
I know, right? We wouldn't. And also, like this movie was one of those things. And this is another case where this is almost like a Batgirl type situation because the studio that made this movie had gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
New World Pictures. I was so happy when I saw the vanity card. I'm like, oh, Roger Corman had a hand in this. and then I read that, oh, New World Pictures went bankrupt in 1988, and so then this movie sat on a shelf until '89.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then was bought by Trimark Films. They have the tiger and golden triangle vanity card that looked cool. But so Trimark bought it, and instead of sending it straight to video like they would normally do with films from the previous regime, they decided, hey, let's just stick this in theaters and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if it had gone straight to video, I probably would not have seen it the year it came out. I would have seen it much later.
Yeah.
You know, it when a movie goes to the theater and not straight to video, it kind of gives it a little bit different point of view when you think about it. Even back then, it's like this movie was just went straight to video. You kind of look down on it a little bit, and the fact that they put it in the theater made it a more prestigious movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, and it was what was I thinking? I just had a thought, and it made it come out of my mind. Oh yeah, I feel like we should probably talk a little bit more about the writer, because I think some people might not know out there that David Twohy, Twohy, that's how you pronounce it. David Twohy, he is so prolific, because I thought he was just the guy who made Pitch Black and The Chronicles of Riddick. Nope. This guy started his career off by writing The Fugitive with Harrison Ford, and then getting an Oscar nod for that script. Yeah, did this?
Well, he also, you're right, talking about The Fugitive, but when you completely missed the first film, which was Critters 2, the main course.
Oh, he wrote that.
Apparently, The Fugitives.
Well, his horror pedigree goes deep too, because he also did The Arrival with Charlie Sheen,
which I absolutely love. I think The
Arrival. there is a new 4K that coming out from Vestron too.
Oh.
Oh, nice!
I don't think it's hit yet, but I'll probably eventually get it. I like that film.
I love it.
This blew my mind. The one credit he did that blew my mind was that he co-wrote Requiem for a Dream with Darren Aronofsky. So I'm looking through this and I'm thinking, what? There's this same guy did all of this. There's nothing in common.
Right. Yeah.
He's just a very versatile director / writer. I mean,
he is.
Look at his work as right now as a director. I mean, I think he did a Perfect Getaway, which was very creative. And in between his Riddick movies, because from my understanding right now, him and Vin Diesel are still working on another Riddick movie.
Oh gosh!
Because despite the fact that none of them make money, they absolutely love this character in the world that they've created, so they keep making it. But to be honest with you, he is really good at creating worlds, and that's what happens in this movie.
Also, Waterworld, by the way. Speaking of worlds.
Oh crap! I forgot about that. Yeah. We try not to mention Waterworld, though.
I like Waterworld. I watched it. I saw it in the theater, and I hated it when it first came out. I watched it again a few years ago, and I was like, I don't know why I didn't like this movie. It's actually pretty good.
Oh, dude, I've always loved that movie. But I haven't seen it since it came out either. So
yeah.
There's an extended cut of Waterworld. I'm wondering if maybe that's what people are starting to.
Yeah, that's the one I watched recently. There's an Arrow release of it. Yeah. They got a regular release of it too, but I got the Arrow's got three different cuts of it on there.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I watched the longer one, so it was
the Kevins argued and got into fights over that movie the entire way. So I'm not surprised there's 3 different cuts.
Oh, I'm not surprised that happened too, because apparently Kevin Costner's favorite director is himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie is really was even back then really well known for getting its head above the other horror stuff by having a really witty script and a really great cast. Which is funny because when I first read the review of this movie in Video Hound, Golden Movie Retriever, which was a phone book thick book of video movie.
Yeah. I had those. I had one of those at one point. Yeah. I had more Leonard Maltins, but I did have, for some reason I had 4. I kept getting more Leonard Maltin ones, but I did have one of those too, the Video Hound ones.
And Video Hound gave this movie 2.5 bones because they said that as great as the script is, the special effects ruin it. But I'm like, they're not that terrible.
No,
I mean, some of them are, but not all of them.
to be
Well,
honest, I think that if you look at the sequel and the visual effects in that one versus this one, yeah, the first was a little lackluster. But I think as a low budget, or what I'm calling a low budget aesthetic with the kind of the period type horror film, I think the visual effects are consistent the all the way through. I think the worst
Yeah.
one I can think of is seeing Julian Sands fly.
Yeah.
well, a lot of that,
Well,
like, yeah, a lot of it's practical though.
yeah,
And it's like, but that's what they had a lot of trouble with, because they were trying to do it practically, and it was like really time consuming and it was dangerous. They had him on a crane and on wires, and he was flying to the barn and all that.
yeah.
But yeah, some of the shots look really, really bad, and they look like they're like maybe green screen. They look really bad, but
No, I think some of that cell animation, like
yeah,
when he's falling down, he's falling and then
yeah.
flies. Yeah, I think that's cell animation.
Animation, yeah, because those are the parts that stand out as being bad. Some of the practical effects are actually pretty good, especially when the Warlock at the end when he gets killed, and that and the way he looks then. But there are a few other ones that are pretty good. Now the makeup effects on Lori Singer when she ages, I think some people complain about that. It didn't bother me that much, but I have like read some reviews where they hated her makeup, and it was really the actress didn't want the makeup on her at all.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that I've actually like listened to three different people talk about it. The special effects artist guy was the most forthcoming with it, but both like Stephen Miner and Julian Sands mention it. Like they're like she was very uncomfortable. She felt very uncomfortable trying to play the older character, and she didn't think she looked good in the makeup. And then the special
That's the
effects
point,
guy,
though.
yeah, I know, yeah, but they were both being very polite about it. The makeup effects guy was still kind of a little aggravated about it because he made these makeup effects for the 40-year-old part, and she wouldn't wear them, and she's like, I'm not doing it. And you just had to stipple the makeup on, which I didn't think it looked bad. Actually, I thought her performance was, especially the 40-year part, I thought that was really good. And then for the
Yeah.
60-year part, he had like a lot more. There's a lot better amount of special effects he was going to put on her face, but she only let him do like half of what he had.
Yeah, that
Yeah, so
shows. I noticed that this time because I watched it on a really good version. The only versions I've ever had was a VHS copy of this movie until recently, which I got the Vestron version Blu-ray. It looks freaking amazing on there, and I could
yeah.
tell that from the 40-year-old to 60-year-old, very little makeup changes. It's like she
No,
didn't.
there's some prosthetics in the 60-year-old. There's like, but she wouldn't let them mess with her eyes.
Mm.
She doesn't look old enough. That
Yeah,
change, that
yeah,
yeah, from 40 to
yeah.
60, I don't think there was enough of a change in the facial features. Her acting like a 60-year-old definitely works because she's chasing after the Warlock when she's not with
Yeah.
Redfern, and you see that she's acting like a 60-year-old.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
works. But
That's a cool shot too when that happens.
Yeah. We should probably also, and that's all great too. But I will talk about that scene too because it's one of my favorite parts. But we should probably step back a little bit and remember that there might be some people listening to this who are like, "What the frack are you talking about?" So we should probably give people at least the premise of this and say where this lands in like the horror lexicon. Because to me, this is like this should be, I think, mentioned in the same breath as like other witch horror movies, which there's not a we're not gonna, there's not a whole lot of them. Like when you think of horror movies about witches, obviously we think of The Witch, but that's recent. You might also think of maybe Witches of Eastwick, but that's really more of a comedy.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you got like I
yeah,
mean,
the Covenant.
there's a lot of folk horror that have witches
there
in
you go.
them.
Yeah, you'd have to go to folk horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not going to go in the folk horror, you go into something like The Covenant, which I don't think did well at the box office.
No, it did not.
Of course,
I saw it. I saw it at the box office. I have not seen it since it came out. But the male version of a witch or The Craft. Is
Yeah.
how it,
There's some Giallo movies like that Sect.
oh, the sect.
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah.
Hocus Pocus is still kind of a comedy. That's a really good witch movie.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the only other thing I could think of, if we're gonna limit ourselves to male witches, then I think the only other thing I could think of that qualifies that's really good, technically, is The Shout, um, with John
I still haven't seen that one.
Hurd and Ralph Bates. Got to see that, man. It's I don't think it's Australian. It's British. It feels like an Aussie movie because the guy, the warlock in question in this movie is an Englishman who went to Australia and learned some magic from the Aboriginals called the Terror Shout, and that when he shouts the Terror Shout, anything within earshot will die when they hear it, except for him, obviously. So he basically, but that's not the only spell he's got in his spell book. He also is able to somehow manipulate the will of John Hurt's wife and basically turns her into his animal slave. Basically, it's really bizarre, but it's also super psychological and weird and suspenseful. And highly recommend. That's the only other time I can think of where they did sort of a grounded, realistic sort of portrayal of what a male warlock could possibly do to your domestic life. But this movie feels more like, as I watched it today, I realized I stepped back and I think, looking at the plot, looking at the structure, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute.
What?
I know what this movie is. Yeah. I know what they straight up ripped off the structure from. Mm-hmm. This movie is basically the Terminator.
Yeah. I was actually about to say that too. That was one of the two reasons why, upon rewatching this movie, I didn't like it. But it isn't exactly the Terminator.
Well, it's the Terminator, but not traveling from the future to the past. It's from the past to the future. Yeah, but with magic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of like they were trying to do the Terminator in a way, but it is a little different though. But yeah, that was something like the last time I tried to watch this movie, I heard somebody say that, or I read it somewhere, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I was
and now you can't not see it because you have two characters in another time. Yeah. They get zapped to the present in a different part of the world.
Right.
And then when they get zapped, one gets zapped, the bad guy goes first, and then the good guy comes in later.
Right.
And then the good guy hitches up with a female. They go on a road trip to try and stop the bad guy from ending the world.
Yeah, yeah. I
mean, I hate to say this, but you could say that the same thing of Beastmaster 2 through the portal of time. I think that's a very common trope, though.
But there's a lot of Terminator ripoffs or clones. They did a lot of Alien ripoffs and clones too. But of the Terminator clones, this is a better one, and it is it is good that they went the reverse. They went from the past to the present, try to disguise the whole thing as a different scenario.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
So they start off in Witchfinder General territory, which is probably what's cool about this is that it's only one of two Witchfinder movies where the Witchfinders are good guys and they actually do find real witches. Yeah. The only other time I can think of where that happens is in Blood on Satan's Claw.
Yeah.
Which is that a Hammer movie? I don't know if it is.
It's not, but I know people can't see this, but here it is. It is actually it's not Hammer though. It is it's a good movie.
It feels like it could be Hammer.
Yeah, it does feel like it. They tried to get Christopher Lee in it, but he didn't do it. They got Patrick Wymark in it instead. But
he would have been the Witchfinder. Oh, that would have been
yeah. But Patrick Wymark, that's actually, I think, Patrick Wymark's last film. I think he died, passed away. But he's really good at it, though. So, I think he had yeah.
Well, so Richard E. Grant, who of course we all know from Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. He shows up and
but he is good in that though.
Yes, he is.
He is good in that. But he's
very good in that movie. But so he is a Witchfinder in this movie, and you see in the beginning you see. By the way, I love the opening. The very first shot of this movie is a cat getting put into a wicker basket,
Yeah.
and you have no idea why. All I'm thinking is oh, please do not kill that cat. I will be very upset if you kill that
Well,
cat.
they're planning on killing the cat though.
I don't think that. No, I think they would survive because the whole thing is you find out later as the judges are walking,
Yeah.
taking a very long walk through the snowy streets of Boston, circa 1691.
One of them's Ian Abercrombie too. One of them is he's
Oh yeah,
pretty
wasn't he in Star Wars?
I don't know. He's impossibly that he's definitely in Puppet Master 3 though.
Oh! No! I just realized Ian Abercrombie. He was the voice of Emperor Palpatine on Star Wars Clone Wars.
Oh, was he? Yeah.
That's what it was.
He's a very recognizable actor, though, when you see him. I've seen him in some other stuff, and I know that Puppet Master 3, for some reason, pops into my head. But he's in a lot of other horror movies from that time period.
Oh, man. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of Star Wars and Stargate references here because Julian Sands was the bad guy in, like, the second to last season of Stargate.
Yeah.
So, so they're going up this tower, which, by the way, isn't just some random castle tower. It's a thing that people used to do, especially in Europe, where they would have towers that were specifically designed to imprison witches. They had doors like that with the hex signs and stuff on it, but it was thought that you had to have a circular high tower to keep witches in. So they have so they're called witch towers, and they're all over Germany apparently.
This is a supernatural movie.
Yeah.
So I do think that it actually does work in this film.
Oh yeah,
for serving that purpose. But just this does take place, and it does have a title at the beginning. It says 1691, the colony of Massachusetts, township of Boston, which is really weird where they end up when they time travel.
Well, it's not that weird because I think weirdly enough, I think there are movies that do that have zero explanation. Like, I love Time After Time. God bless that movie. But there's zero reason why H.G. Wells got into a time machine to chase after Jack the Ripper, and it takes him to San Francisco in the 80s.
There is a reason. There's a reason why he sit there first. I didn't.
Yes, in this movie.
Yeah, in this movie, there is a reason why he sit there and not Boston first.
Yes, and we'll get to that. Although there's a reason why. Yes, the reason why he's sent to the area makes perfect sense to me. Why he's sent to this particular time period, never explained. But anyway,
yes, it is. It's explained too.
I don't know why. I don't remember them saying it had to be 100 years though.
No, it didn't. It's the time period because before then they would never have access to his grave to get the third part of the book because I never noticed that until I rewatched the movie.
That's what it was.
Look, at least they explain it. At least they explain it. They don't like to leave it hanging, even though it's like the explanation doesn't really matter because you're just kind of following what's happening. But it's nice that the writer gave a crap enough to actually put something in there. You know,
it is nice.
Well, it shows you that Tui, even when he did this, he was really thinking really hard on everything he crafts, which is why he's such a great fucking writer.
And you know what he did also? Research.
Yeah.
He did freaking tons of research because, and this is before the internet, by the way, this guy must have read some books. He went and huffed it to the local library. This dude might have even gone to like the Vatican archives or something because all the stuff, all of these weird, wild, like charms and incantations and occult stuff and names and all the weird things that Richard E. Grant says how to counter the curses of the wizard let's call him a wizard of the warlock and like how to kill wizard. And how to kill a warlock and all that stuff. Yeah. All of that is 100% accurate to what's in like occult books and folklore. Like all of that's real stuff. It's wild. Like the crazier it is, yes, that's just he went and read some book from some ancient archives or something and put it in a movie. It's wild. But I feel like, like I said, it does feel like a really good Terminator ripoff. But because there's a time travel element to it, I think that and the tone of it makes it feel almost like a rip-roaring comic book adventure than a horror movie. But that works for it. I think not against it.
Right? Yeah, it doesn't have even though he's a warlock and it doesn't have that much necessarily horror in it, and it is have a lot of action in it.
It does also feel like I think. Tui was trying to make the male warlock, the I used to think warlock was like the male equivalent of witch, but then I found out that no, the word is just another word for witch. So, and also, you know what? Also, I realized as I watched this movie again that like the Terminator, the warlock has no name. He's
Yeah,
just
Right,
called
right.
Warlock.
Yeah. He's called the Warlock.
yeah.
Yeah, like he's the only one.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean,
yeah,
it's
he
kind of
comes.
it's kind of like the Leprechaun, you know. It's like we're really saying the Warlock as in he is a Warlock, but he is the Warlock that's in the movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very similar. I mean, in theory, the Warlock in the other two movies are not the same person. So you
Yeah.
could think of it that way.
Right. Yeah. They did that with Leprechaun too, even
Yeah,
though he's played by Warwick
same
Davis
person. Yeah,
most of the time. He's played by Julian Sands twice in
yeah.
the series.
But they're not
Yeah,
but they're not like connected in any way. So,
but
but I
yeah,
like that concept. I mean, they did a good job. They could just put anybody in that character and have different types of warlocks out there. I like the fact that he doesn't call himself a warlock. He just calls himself a witch. Yeah, he calls himself the witch, and of course, it's Richard E. Grant's character, Redfern, who calls him a warlock. The warlock, the warlock.
yeah, because Warlock is a better title than Witch.
Yeah, it's a really cool freaking title. I'm surprised someone else hasn't bothered to use it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, except for that Western that
Yeah,
Dave
yeah,
mentioned.
yeah. There's a.
But
I think it might be the name of the town in the Western. I think the name
it
of the
is.
town's Warlock.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
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 yeah, I think it's a
yeah,
town.
it
I saw
is.
yeah,
It
that
is.
a long time ago too.
yeah.
But yeah, so the Warlock, name not given, uh, is is uh, is condemned to die, as the township people say. He is condemned to die by being burned and I guess hanged as well over a basket of living cats. So that's
Yeah.
what makes me think that the cats would survive because like he's gonna burn and little bits of we assume his ashes and pieces are probably gonna fall maybe around the basket of cats. I don't think the cats
Yeah,
are
you.
gonna I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, you're very positive outlook on this. I kind of like think the cats are not out necessarily out of danger here. I think that
If they
I
burn them over
yeah,
a thing of cats, I think the cats
yeah,
may not survive. If they,
But
yeah,
wait a minute, it says the guy says explicitly you are condemned to be burned over a basket of living cats. So the cats have to stay alive in order for the spell to work.
I guess what do you suspect the cats do? Obviously, some research that the writer did, but what do you think that is supposed to do? Yeah,
They're supposed to stay in the basket and they're supposed to be alive. That's all they're supposed to do because there's something about the cats being alive underneath him as he burns that's supposed to destroy him completely. Which,
oh,
yeah,
by the way, and now I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I'm pretty sure that's why he comes back in the next movie because they did not do their due diligence for disposing of Warlock corpses at the end of this movie. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
yeah. They needed cats at the end.
They needed a basket of cats.
Yeah, it's kind of odd they introduced a basket of cats and then they don't bring it back. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they never.
it,
They don't even show it again. The
yeah,
least they could have done is like when the Devil's Whirlwind was coming, which by the way I love ink tank clouds effects in the movies. I always
yeah,
love
yeah.
those. They don't do them anymore, and I miss them. But like the Devil's Wind is coming, and I wish they could have had at least one shot where the little kitties are inside the basket and they pop their heads up and look at the wind. That would have been enough for me. Like he had the cat, they had the basket all set up for execution, but nothing happened
Yeah.
because that's when the wind comes. And Richard E. Grant was standing off with or Red Brain was standing off against Warlock, basically saying like, "This is it. You're finally gonna die. No, your Satan is not going to save you." And then Warlock goes, "Maybe he will save us both." Which I wonder makes me think that maybe he expected both of them to get time traveled in a weird way.
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know.
I noticed that too. He said that, but I don't think he expected Redford to get plugged in there. I think the whole idea of him getting thrust into time was always not something he wasn't expecting, which is why he has to go to the medium to get answers from his Satan Lord of Satan.
From
I give him the name. What's the name of the
Well, no,
demon?
I mean, well, yeah, it's
it's Samuel.
yeah, but it's Satan though because it's like he says he has many names and he like pick one of them. Here it is, Zimiel or whatever he says, and then he's like, it's pretty much the devil, you know. And that's who he thinks he's talking to anyway. But I don't think the devil is very trustworthy. I don't know why he believes what he says. He seems like, okay, yeah, I'll give that to you. That's fine. Just bring me back, or get this grimoire and put it together, and you'll get that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot
we're
to that.
good.
We'll
Yeah.
get to that.
Well,
We'll
it's
get to
very
that when we
simple.
get to that. But like, it's a thing
Go ahead.
where like he's going. I mean, there's no explanation for the devil wind. Like we don't ever see
Yeah.
him conjuring it.
Right.
We don't see like there's no indication that the warlock did this on purpose.
Yeah, but he does
It just
about it though.
happens.
Yeah, he seems like he knows that something's about to happen. Maybe he did some kind of he probably did some kind of spell before this,
Oh yeah.
before he was caught, and he knows something's coming, but it doesn't quite go the way he expects it to go.
No, it doesn't. Also, we should probably mention too, because it keeps coming back again and again. Apparently, apparently the way you handcuff a warlock is you have to like put some thumb screws. You have to set the special like the warlock handcuffs
But
that
this
like
doesn't seem to be very effective when it happens. It seems to be.
well,
Yeah.
it's very awkward
Yeah.
because like you have to like grab him, you have to put a thumb screws into his thumbs, and you also have to screw some stuff into his big toe, which is why Julian Sands spends like literally half this, not even half, almost all of this movie barefoot, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Is that he's got this apparatus that makes him bend over the whole time in a very uncomfortable position.
Yeah.
So, and then
Right.
Richard E. Grant takes that with him when he time travels to the distant future year of 1988. And I love how when the Warlock first gets there, he's unconscious and time travel jet lagged, and he gets thrown through the window of
Yeah.
Laurie Singer's apartment in Malibu, California, and her gay roommate is there to pick up the pieces with him. And we only know he's a gay roommate because information that happens later.
Well, we know he's a gay roommate because he's very gay acting in general.
Yeah.
It's like I saw that dude on screen, and I'm like, he's acting very gay. He's flirting with the warlock. He seems definitely effeminate at the very least. But then later on, it's confirmed that he is gay. But he's not the type of gay person or the homosexual person that goes out to parks and goes looking for young boys. He's not that type of. That's called queer, according to Laurie Singer's character.
Yeah, that made me
So it's
weirded out a little bit though. Dave's not making that up, folks. That's dialogue from the movie.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how they were.
In the late 80s,
Yeah.
they're following what police officers back in the day kind of attributed to gay culture without actually knowing what it actually was.
But language changes over time, and the language changes, and now people actually, I've heard of people being offended who are homosexual. They get offended that you call them gay. Now that's a slur in some people. So you can't win. You can't win with this shit. I'm telling you.
But yeah, we know that he has a really awesome scorpion ring on his pinky.
Yeah.
Because like the next day, first of all, I love how when the night before though, Warlock is just sitting in Laurie Singer's bed in her very pink, very outrageous looking decorated room, looking at a magazine and seeing 1988 on it. He's like, can it really be 300 years? And he's still like time travel jet lagged, and she's like, okay, and he's like, okay, why don't you lay down and have a rest? And he's like, oh, that's a good idea. And he just lays down and just Warlock naps for an entire night. And we kind of forget about him for a little bit, and then we get to see her life a little bit. We see that she works at a diner, and also we see that she's got diabetes because her diabetes needles and test kit stuff turns out to be really important to this character and this movie.
I was going to mention the diabetes because you see her actually taking an insulin shot, and of course, like the thing is this a character thing or is this a weapon to be used later? And the
answer is both.
Yeah, I don't know if it's too much of a character thing because it's only brought up a couple more times, and it's not really important to her character overall. Maybe gives it a little bit of flavor to the character that she has to take insulin shots, but it doesn't do much for the character.
I think in the late 80s, it did to represent people who had diabetes, and it wasn't nearly as open as it is now. Like so many people have diabetes now that it's kind of like a very open conversation. Kind of like this film had, it was he had a conversation about open gay character Chaz, and then it had a conversation about diabetes and insulin without actually making a comment on it, because they actually make it a plot device and not just a character thing. And you got to think that this character is a vain. It's not. It's also one of her flaws because she's very vain, which works into her character overall because all she cares about is her physical features. She's very vain in that way, even to the fact that she'd rather run over the old woman that she first encounters that's walking across the street, and she literally tells the audience, "Oh, I hope I never get that old," type of thing.
Yeah.
Literally what she has to deal with. So I think all of that kind of adds to her character because they could have easily not had any of this in there, and she could.
I was. Yeah, it's interesting you say that about that scene with the old lady. I was going now that you mentioned it, it does tie in really well. But I was going to say it sounded like when I was watching it, it seemed like a nice piece of life scene. And it seemed a little random to me, but it was a nice piece of life. She comes up, stops at the stop sign. The old lady looks at her, and then she's cool about it after that. But her seeing that is a reflection of what happens to her. That's really nice. I didn't put that together till you just said that.
Yeah. I always saw her as vain, but a vain character because all she cared about was her kind of her looks and stuff like that, which is why her outfits are the way they are. You look at her wardrobe that she pulls out of the closet and all that type of stuff. It's very, very late 80s, but it's not like she's wearing that at her job as a waitress as well. And and then of course both the Redfern makes comment on the fact that she wears all the makeup, and they would say he said good women in his time didn't put all that stuff on there. It was a sign of the devil, stuff like that.
Of whorishness.
So it's one of those things. It's one of those character things that if you would just had her be a normal character, then it kind of takes away from some of the kind of like the back and forth between Redfern and her and the different time periods that they're from and their expectations of people between those two time periods. That's why I say Tui did a really good job when he wrote the film. All this stuff's like kind of in there, and you kind of take it for granted when you're watching a really good action horror film. Even the horror elements of this film, you take a little bit for granted because really the only horror elements are when the Warlock is biting people's tongues out and chopping off fingers, and let's cook up the fat from the innocent, non-baptized child so I can drink it and be able to fly. Like there's some horror elements in this film, but they just don't. It's mostly all done via the Warlock to make it horrifying.
I do think that, but I do think also like the Warlock himself becomes it's presented kind of like a monster. So it's really is more of a monster movie, because like what's cool. Well, I mentioned Hammer earlier, and this almost feels like a Hammer Dracula in a way. It feels like a really good remake of Dracula 1970. Where
I could see that,
because with Warlocks, you have a vampiric type character where he's immortal. He can fly. He is seductive. He is handsome. He is intelligent. He is a man out of time. And also, but unlike vampires, we don't know the rules. We don't know what he can't do. We just know that he can do magic. And in doing that, there's an element to that that's unpredictable. We don't know what he can't do, so we don't know what he's going to do next.
I actually think that he does not know how to do much magic at all. He reads the pages of the grimoire to learn the magic from. I don't think, and he also, he has to do a spell to learn how to fly. He does. I think when we meet him at the very beginning of the film, he can't do a whole lot.
And I think you're right about that, Kevin. It makes me wonder, what the heck did he do to Richard E. Grant's wife? Because you find out later that Richard E. Grant actually has a vendetta against this character because he killed his wife way back off screen back in the day, back in the 1600s. So, but if he can't really do that, he can't even make fireballs like he can later on. So, what did he actually do? The only thing,
he's got
the we see him do is curse people, basically.
Well, let's look. I guess this.
He could do some spells. I think that what he could do some spells, but he didn't have like the magic to shoot fireballs until after reading from the book. Because I never noticed this till I rewatched it, that he reads that book a lot, and you see him practicing what he reads. And I'm like, oh, that's a good thing that they did at this movie. It's very clever. Like, they didn't make him like an unstoppable force at the very beginning, because obviously he was captured by and he's vulnerable. Like, there are vulnerabilities that he has, which that would seem like funny and odd if there wasn't build up to some of this stuff in the film, I believe. Like,
what I think makes that work, and I realized this as I was watching it, because like later on in the movie, they're on an airplane, and like Richard E. Grant they're flying to Boston to get ahead of the Warlock, but he's in the airplane, but they don't know where he is. But Richard E. Grant knows that that the Warlock is there because he sees the signs. The curdle, the milk has curdled on a guy's coffee creamer. Another guy's lighting a cigarette when you could light cigarettes on a plane. And the flame glows pure blue. Yeah. So he knows that if you see two of the signs, there's witchery afoot. So I thought to myself, wait a minute, he does what? Why are you bothering to search for him? Because if he's a warlock, can't he just like turn himself into other people? Like, because that's a spell. It's a glamour spell. Like, couldn't he be literally any of these people? But then I thought to myself, okay, wait a minute. If Richard E. Grant isn't thinking about that, because he is positioned in this movie as the warlock expert, he knows everything about warlocks and about magic. The only thing he doesn't seem to know is where all the pages of the book are, but he knows what the book can do. And that's the main thing. So I think if he's not thinking about that, then he probably can't do that. So I think that's
he never does that, though, does he? He never looks like somebody else.
No, he doesn't. He does not change his physical appearance. Yeah. But that's something that's well within the scope of magic. I mean, we've all seen reruns of Bewitched where Samantha could seemingly do anything just by winkling her nose. But there seems to be lots of limitations on this guy. Like we said, like you were saying earlier, it seems like the only thing he could do at the beginning is he can curse people, and apparently he can conjure a time travel vortex, maybe. And the curses involve things like cursing Larry Singer to age 20 years or 40 years every day until she dies of old age, or cursing the Mennonite guy to go blind and have his eyes bleed. And then maybe threatening to curse a couple whose wife is pregnant to turning their twin babies into slugs, basically.
Well, that's at the end, but he does. I mean, I think he does things too. It's odd. Like, why does he do some of these things? Just to be a prick, you know? He kills like the Chaz character, and he curses. Lori was Cassandra's her character's name, but he curses her for no reason. They're trying to help him, and they didn't do anything to him, and they were like literally trying to help him, and then he just like decides to be a prick for no reason at all. I mean, other than the only thing because it doesn't seem like he gets anything from it, you know, because he gets stuff from the book, but when he takes the guy's tongue out and fries it up on the pan, I don't think he gets anything from it. He doesn't get anything from cursing her either.
He gets pleasure.
He gets the ring. He gets the ring from Chaz. He steals.
That's right. He gets the ring, but he never does anything with it.
I think he just likes it, though. He just likes it. He steals it just because.
Yeah, he steals it because he can.
Yeah, Chaz can't get it off. Yeah. Chaz can't get it off his finger, so he's like just cuts his finger off and takes it.
Yeah.
I think the Warlock does certain things just because he can. Sometimes it's for fun. Sometimes it's just like the ring. He just does it because he can.
Because he's evil. He's pure concentrated evil. He's literally the son of Satan.
I mean, I don't think he
he wants to be. That's what he kind of wants to be. But I don't know if he believes that, though.
Well, it's kind of like the second movie. He doesn't really always kill people. He manipulates them. He turns one into a freaking Picasso statue, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I think that he does it because he can. Like, he's cursing these people because that's about the extent of his powers till he starts to read and learn from the book. Which I thought was really impressive. When I rewatched it, when I was a kid watching this movie, I just thought it was all cool, but I didn't understand like how all of this kind of connected because I never watched it critically. I think that it's a testament to the way it was written that some of this stuff still holds up, and we could talk about it like we are now, and it makes sense. Like there's a lot of other witch movies we could definitely talk about to say it makes no sense in the logic.
Right. Well, there's a lot of movies that don't make sense, but sometimes because I think that the things get changed after the script's written, and then the producers get involved and they start changing things to make things not make sense. But everything in this movie, I believe, I might be missing something, but it all kind of does seem to be written and accounted for in ways that aren't heavy-handed and in your face, and or even like sometimes even spelled out. But a lot of the information is retained in the film. It didn't get cut from the movie to make it not make sense.
Yeah, and that's the thing about magic is that it's a double-handed sword when you're writing magic, whether you're writing horror, whether you're writing fantasy, is that you have to, whatever system of magic you use or whatever role magic plays in your thing, I think you have to be realistic in the sense that if it exists in your world, you have to know what human beings would do with that kind of power and realistically think about that. And you also have to be consistent with what it can and cannot do. Like if your warlock has a weakness to iron, which apparently this guy does, you got to be consistent with that throughout the whole thing. And if your warlock, it doesn't have all of his superpowers at the offset, you have to have something that gives him more power as it goes along. And whatever power he gets, it has to be a thing where if he can do this, then why can't he do that? There's some things you can do just by implying it. Like, for instance, there seems to be, because like we mentioned the plane earlier, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, he can already fly. Why wasn't the warlock just flying across the state to get to Boston? Because he can fly. Well, apparently it seemed, because if we look at how he flies, it seems like he can't get super high.
Yeah,
because like
I don't think it's like a long flight either. It would take him a lot longer. This airplane flies a lot quicker. It's kind of weird that he goes to the airport and gets on the same plane as the hero characters. He could have gone on any plane.
I kind of want to see a deleted sequence that shows how he got past security, how he got past, because that was what Laurie Singer was saying. Like, that guy's back down there. He's still beeping. He's still setting off the metal detector. What's on him that would set off the metal detector? I have no idea. But anyway.
Yeah, but the other dude gets through with like a weather vane strapped to his back. And he gets in there, which is that's quite hilarious. Some of that dialogue. And she tries to get him to put it back, and then she sees the Warlock. She's like, "All right, never mind, just take it with us," and then he brings it on the plane.
And she tells the stewardess, "Family heirloom."
Yeah.
There's no way that would get by.
Yeah. Well, maybe back then it was a little, but I don't know how he got through the metal detector. But it was funny. There's like some scenes in this in the dialogue, especially the back and forth between Cassandra's character, and the Redfern character. It's really funny.
Yeah, it is, because they have a great rapport with each other, and there's all this the culture clash stuff is always good. And I think it's funny too that she never makes fun of him. I mean, she kind of jives him a little bit about some of the things, but like I feel like she never like. I mean, she'll say things like, what are the women like in your time and stuff, but she's never like. I feel like if they did this movie today, they would have her character be constantly horrified by like things he would say, like casual racism or like horrible like misogyny and things like that. But she never does that.
Yeah, it's actually funny. She's like starts like liking him pretty quick, especially when she's like when she's 40 years old, and they're in the car and he starts talking about I think his wife's like I can't remember her name. It's like Majorie or something.
Miriam, I think it's
Miriam, like from Robin Hood.
It is.
But she's like, "Who's this Miriam shit? What's this?" It's like she's getting like defensive. And maybe it's because she's under that spell, but it's just funny how she's like jealous of his wife from another time.
Yeah.
It plays in really well with it. You see that little tension, but it's not really that big of a tension with him because he's still hung up on his wife. but that last scene in the film when he kisses her eyes, but then doesn't kiss her, and she's expecting to be kissed, and then he disappears.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that there's no forced love story in this.
yes.
Yeah.
Unlike the
they're-
Terminator.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's nice they didn't have to do the sex scene, but
Oh God.
I kind of like. I would have liked for him to have stayed though at the end. You know, it's like,
Yeah, I used to think that when I was a kid until I
yeah,
rewatched it. And I think I like it better the fact that he returns to his own time after vanquishing the Warlock. And it's kind of one of those somber type of endings
yeah.
that
I guess it works.
well-
It makes the movie make sense because it's hilarious too when they have to like fight over his corpse and stuff, and his
Yeah.
corpse
Oh,
is there.
gosh,
He
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
want to see it.
That
You
was
know?
the biggest reveal for that, and
Yeah.
it causes a lot of temporal issues that we'll get into, because like I was thinking about that while I was watching. I'm like, wait a minute, how would that work? And then I started thinking about different theories of time. But I'll talk about that when we get to it, because it's very deep and interesting.
Yeah.
But right now we
Yeah,
need to talk.
yeah.
But right now we need to talk about the Spiritists and Mary Warnoff's cameo-ish appearance in this movie.
Yes, the spiritualist, where the Warlock decides he needs direction from what's the Satan's name? I like the name and I never fucking remember it.
Zamael. Which-
Zamiel, I think is how they pronounce it.
It is how they pronounce it. However, I looked it up, and apparently that's not technically one of the names of Satan. That's a fictionalized bastardization, probably, of Samael, which
Right,
which is considered the true name of Satan in Jewish and Kabbalistic traditions.
Yeah.
It's not in the,
Yeah.
it's not in the Bible, but it's actually supposed to be specifically it's thought to be. Let's see. It says Samael specifically thought to be the serpent who tempted Eve, and the angel who tested Abraham, and the angel of death who takes souls with a drop of poison. Which is interesting because Samael means poison. It means venom of God.
He he picks that name though because he doesn't want to alert her that he's trying to get in touch with Satan, because she wants to know who he wants to, and he picks like a name that she doesn't necessarily recognize, and so she's not as concerned about it as she would have been if he said Lucifer or something, you know.
Yeah, although she probably would have been down for it actually.
Well, because she's a fake anyways, and I think he knows that from the very beginning. So
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
I don't think he ever steps into that room thinking that she's a real medium ever.
It's pretty hilarious when she fakes it too, and she's like getting all sexual sounding about it, like she's about to have an orgasm, and he's like sitting there like, really, you know.
I'll wait for the real Samael.
Yeah.
And you see the look on her face, but I am the real.
Yeah, because you don't have enough belief. He's just like, yeah, right.
So did you hear? Like, there's a special effect they cut from this sequence.
Gosh, yes.
Yeah, you heard about it.
That.
Yeah. So basically, it was an effect that the special effect guys liked it, even though Stephen Miner said that they gave him a lot of pushback. They're like, well, this ain't going to work. So she rips open her shirt, and her breasts are there, and then her breasts turn into eyeballs, and that's the eyeballs that he takes instead of the eyeballs out of her face. They said,
and he freezes her too, which is
yeah. He freezes her head, and then he throws her whole body on the ground, and it shatters. But the special effects guy said the effect turned out really good, but then the director, because I guess they were giving him so much pushback when they were shooting it, he was kind of really worried about it. I think he said he showed it to some people, and they're like, well, you know what, let's just cut that part out. It don't work. You know?
So they cut it out, but then they had to reshoot the whole thing with the fake teeth and the eyes and the makeup and the context, and they did that. But the only surviving footage of that original sequence is in the trailer to this movie, which I forgot I was gonna send it to you guys before we started. But if you watch the trailer, which by the way is not on the IMDb page for this movie, which I thought was weird, but no, it's on YouTube. But yeah, the trailer of this movie is pretty epic. They use some music from Excalibur in this movie, which is pretty wild. But there's like a split second of Mary Warnoff's frozen face, and he's leaning over saying that he's going to be the new Messiah. So that was part of what didn't test very well. But it's still there, because he does say like, what is it? What is thy bidding, thy master, basically? And he says, like, I put you here so that you can find the pieces of my Bible, my book of black magic. It has been torn into thirds, and you find the first bit here. And I want you to assemble it for me, for it is the thing that can unmake creation. And
the grand grimoire is what they call it.
The Grand Grimoire.
Grimoire,
yes.
yeah.
Which is a thing. Grimoires are basically just a name for any codex of spells.
This is the grand one.
This is the big one.
Yeah.
The Grand Poobah.
Yeah, you can't destroy this one.
It's indestructible. It's like it's even better. It's even better than the Necronomicon.
I do wonder though, like all that her dialogue when she has the demon face, I almost feel like that had to be in there. You know what I'm saying? But like then after that, she ripped her shirt open. But because that's a lot better, like seeing that demon face than her boobs talking to him. You know.
That would have been weird, yeah.
Well, I think that would have been a little bit too far because a lot of what happens in here is very much grounded as opposed to what happens in the sequel. This one is much more grounded with everything that happens in terms of the Warlock. And so that just seems really far off to have the eyes in her breasts and she reveals those and she falls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it does. Yeah, they did say though that they were going to go with something more like a witch, like Wizard of Oz sort of thing. So they probably did add that in. All that dialogue with her, without that though, her performance isn't that long, you know?
Mm.
Because that's some cool makeup on her, and I like her performance when she's actually doing all that. She kind of reminds me of some Evil Dead stuff or something, you know?
Oh yeah, it's very Dead-eyed now that I think about it. Yeah, but so and she says like, you know, you could do this, and he's like, and he basically goes, "What's in it for me?"
Yeah.
and the devil's insulted, like, service to Zemiel is its own reward. He's like, "Yes, you're right, it is, but I was just thinking, basically, like, you know, is there anything else I could possibly?" And he basically says that you will be my one begotten son. And I thought to myself that it's not clear exactly what that means. Is he going to be like the Satan's son, the Antichrist who's going to rule the world? But what's funny because the book is going to unmake creation, and that then that follows suit that the book would unmake the Warlock as well. So he's probably thinking, okay, I'll unmake creation for you, Dad, but you got to make it so that I survive this somehow.
I don't know what. That's like the one part of the film that is unclear because he seems like he believes Satan or whoever, or who, you know, he does seem like he believes the demon when they say that. But why would he? Why? How could you trust somebody who's just talking out of their ass like that, and they don't even offer him the reward to begin with, and then they're like, well, I guess what I could do is I could make you my only son or whatever, and then it's like, how can you be somebody's son when you're not their son to begin with, you know?
Well, I think he is, because he does tell the channeler, like, when she asks, like, who is he to you, he's like a father. So I think it is kind of his
maybe he's one of their sons. Yeah, I don't know how he does seem like he believes it. He believes the demon when they say it, but I don't believe it myself.
Because you're smart.
He's
not.
We don't find out. Yeah, we don't find out for sure in the film because of the way it ends. But I definitely don't think that this demon's going to hold up its end of the bargain if it came down to that. Yeah.
Also, that's another thing, too, that doesn't make sense, is that if the book unmakes creation, that means it would also unmake the demon, too. It would also unmake Satan, because Satan is a created being.
Well,
so it would unmake...
They would have to...
everything.
Unmake it for what purpose? To remake it, I guess, for themselves, is I guess what they're thinking about doing. Like, why would you need to remake it? Why can't you just take it over from where it's at right now, you know?
Yeah. Also keep in mind that's what they believe will happen. That's not necessarily what will happen. That's what they believe will happen.
Right. I mean, I just don't see. Yeah.
the priest that they meet to find the location of the last one says that that's what the Satan believes. If they reveal the name of God, it will unmake everything. But that's just a belief that they had.
But
It may not
yeah,
happen.
I guess you are dealing with like Satan here, and Satan's in this particular film doesn't like creation. You know, they're in their in the hellscape other world, and they just think the whole creation of the earth is not a good thing. You know, so they don't like it, and so they just want to destroy it. I guess that's what they're getting at. But still, it does lend the question for the Warlock himself. It's like, what's he get out of it? I guess it means he's going to go to back to hell with Satan and be like head honcho there or second in command or whatever. You know?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess. I guess. I don't know. That's like you're right. That whole part of the script just isn't really thought out very well. I kind of wish they had done more of a thing where, and I would have probably added depth to the Warlock's character a little bit
Yeah.
if there was a thing where the Warlock was basically just a kid who wanted to please his dad more than anything else. And his dad really doesn't care that much about him, and it hurts him so bad that so he's trying to do this amazing big thing to make his dad care about him. His dad just happens to be Satan.
yeah. This Yeah, so he gets the eyes from the psychic. That's a compass to go bring him to the next piece, which is funny that the piece that he needs is back at Cassandra's house. And that's when like Redford shows up at her house. Well, I guess we missed some police stuff too because she goes back and it's like a crime scene from when her roommate was killed. So the police have already questioned her and all that. But that's what it's funny. Like I wonder why it takes like so long for Redford to show up, almost like a day later when
Well,
he's
they
like,
never, yeah, unlike Terminator, they never show where he ended up. Like
No.
they never show where he touched down. I
yeah,
imagine
yeah,
he must have been,
maybe he's been there, yeah, longer or something, you know.
or maybe, yeah, or it could be that he did actually, it was like a time travel thing where, like, sometimes, if you have two people going through the time tunnel, sometimes one person ends up earlier than the other one, even though they both went at the same time.
Yeah.
I always kind of saw that as Redfern having to search for where he was. It's kind of like you mentioned, like Michael Bihn's character in Terminator had to figure out the clues of where the Terminator is, but he did. He also just ends up going after Connor, like Sarah Connor. Jesus, I almost forgot what her name is. But with this one, there is no other way for him to track it other than damage, like chaos, because he doesn't have the Warlock's blood yet. So he can't track him with his witch compass yet, which I thought was
Yes, the
really
witch
cool.
compass, which by the way, like I because he went through the vortex just improv. He didn't expect for it to happen. He
It's
just
like a
ran
box.
through.
Yeah, happens to have the witch compass on him. Yeah.
Yeah, where did he get it from? So that the only thing that makes sense to me is that Hellboy is that he did not actually take the witch compass with him. That was something he found at some occult bookstore or something, a different one than the one that the Warlock went to in LA, and he somehow stole it because he didn't have any money, obviously. That's the only thing I can think of that makes any sense to me.
Dude. He's got it on. He pulls out all kinds of crap from that damn coat that he has. He's got his freaking whip. He's got that box. Everywhere you look, he's got all types of stuff just pulling it out. Like that's
the whip is an awesome addition. It makes me think of Castlevania.
Yes,
it's very Simon Beaumont.
Yes,
this witch compass is very cumbersome, and it's kind of funny. It looks very steampunk like. He takes it out and he puts the werewolf's blood on it, trying to track him. But it's funny the way they have to bring it with them and hope that they have to keep reassembling it and taking it back out and like, let's see if it's working now, you know?
Yeah,
that's not great. Why they set it up in the car, and, and then of course he thinks he doesn't need it anymore because he thinks he's just going to kill him after the midnight plays.
Well, that's a funny scene too. She actually mentions it too, like, wait, maybe we should bring it with us. We might need it again later. Nah.
No,
You
but
know,
no,
yeah.
because they use the weather. What the heck you
The
recall?
weather
A
vane.
weather
Yeah,
vane.
Yeah,
yeah.
A weather vane.
because it has his blood on it and it's made out of iron. They use that the same way that they would the whatchamacallit.
Yeah, the witch compass.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It's funny that one of those moments though that he leaves it. It's like one of those horror movie moments when they do that. But it's funny that she questions it. She's like, "This is stupid. Why are you leaving the thing in the car?" You know.
Yeah, but it's funny too because how they use it because she calls the cops on him because of course that's what you would do if a strange man dressed up in a fur skin outfit, which by the way apparently is super stinky because when they're driving together and he's asleep, or when they're in the plane actually she tries to get some sleep and she puts her face next to his shoulder, which has like a raccoon or a wolf skin or something on it,
Yeah.
and she's like, ugh,
Yeah,
gosh.
that's
So
so funny.
apparently he reeks. But like they take
He does smack the shit out of her too, though.
oh yeah,
You
when
know?
they
Yeah.
first meet, he smacks her, as a typical like snap out of it woman kind of thing, and then
Yeah,
she
yeah.
smacks him right back.
Yeah. Yeah, she's screaming and he just smacks her across the face. It's funny that you have the hero of the story like smacking a woman, but it's funny that she hits him back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he's the weird thing is she doesn't know for sure that the warlock killed Chaz. It could have been this guy instead, so she doesn't know, or
That's
if
right.
so it's like, and he drags her in there, and he's like, "Where was the warlock? Where's the blood? And show me where it happened." And then he gets out the compass. She just thinks he's like crazy, and that the compass isn't going to do anything.
yeah.
But yeah,
I
but
mean,
it's cool that after he gets taken away by the cops, she keeps looking back at the compass because of what he told her.
Yeah,
yeah, because she says it will spin slow when the warlock is away, but the closer he gets, the needle will spin faster. So at first
yeah.
she's gathering her stuff to put in her car because she's like,
Yeah. By the way, the
"Scratch this, I'm
police.
out of
Yeah,
here."
yeah. The police. It's weird that the police just leave though. The police are like, "You need to get out of here." And she's like, "All right, time me." She goes back inside to do it, and the police are like, "Yeah, I'm timing you. Bye." You know.
And then every now and then she looks back at the little thing and the needle's moved a little bit. And she's like, "Huh, that's weird." And then goes back.
Yeah, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, bam. There he is. Standing there. And I noticed that the warlock is there. And now he's wearing some steel-toed boots. Where did he get those boots is what I want to know.
Oh,
Yeah.
he stole them like the Terminator, dude. He just steals them. He takes what he wants. Him getting stuff is easy to explain. He just finds someone, takes what he wants, and kills them and takes what he wants.
Yeah, like you did with the ring, you see
Yeah.
that. But there may have even, I bet you I don't know, but there may have either been a written scene or a deleted scene where he kills somebody and takes the boots.
You know what's funny too? I noticed is that like every time you might think, "Oh, how is this guy maneuver through the modern day?" And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is L.A. He could easily walk around L.A. in the '80s looking the way he does, and nobody would give it would
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's got like a poof rock hair or something. I mean, Richard E. Grant actually looks way more out of place than the Warlock does.
That's a pretty ugly looking coat he has on, that raccoon thing.
And he never takes it
no.
off.
Never
Well,
takes it
yeah.
off.
Well, he knows better than to do that. He's from from back then. It was like you kept it on, but it's hot as hell. I mean, she's wearing like pretty like short shorts and stuff.
Yeah, it's weird.
It would be really hot in that coat, but I guess he's used to it. He just probably never takes it off ever.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe he's got some kind of holy underwear under there, like the Mormons that keeps him safe. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, like, he's there. So like the warlock comes in, and that's when he curses her. He steals her bracelet because if you take a piece of somebody, a keepsake that's like important to somebody, and a warlock curses you, that's what happens. So he gets the pages from an end table. A random end table was apparently a communion table hundreds of years ago, and that's where he gets the first few pages of the Grand Grimoire.
You think they would have done better at hiding these? They do really go with the last
They
piece
did.
of
They
it.
explained that too in the
Yeah.
dialogue that they
That's
hid
right.
in the church in the whatchamacallit, and then it got sold off, and that's
Yeah.
why it's in that house. And I believe that's probably my theory is that's why he was sent there first because it's the furthest away from where everything else is, and it's the easiest one to get to. because the other one's in a Mennonite location, and then the other one's supposed to be in a sanctified grave, and that's the easiest one to get first.
Yep, exactly.
And that's the only reason why I thought about this is because when they explain where everything is, I was like, oh, now it makes sense why he's all the way in freaking Miami first. At least that's how I see it. I guess you
imagine that, because they bought this friggin' table at a yard sale or estate sale or something, and just ended up in their house, and that's why they're getting killed, because they got this stupid thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's just how it is sometimes in horror movies, man.
Yeah, I know.
Satan had a good idea. Satan threw him into that house on purpose, just because it's Laurie Singer and Chaz there. Is that they're just incidental.
Did you think it was a little much for Satan to throw him through the damn window, though? I think it was like landed him nicely.
It's a tornado. Satan's a storm, brings a storm to whip him from 300 years in the past to 300 years in the future. He's like
the devil's wind is
devil's wind, which they also say on the radio broadcast. I never picked that up until now. I thought that was very clever too. I was like,
yeah. Honestly, though, I'm not sure that that's actually Satan that's doing it, because later on, when the wind comes back, when he attempts to end creation, to uncreate creation, he's looking up at it, and he is mocking God. He looks like he's directly addressing God. So it almost makes me think, wait a minute, maybe it wasn't Satan that actually did all this. Maybe that was actually God.
But it's I don't know if it's maybe God, but it brings the other guy back too. So it's like I don't think maybe a more of a neutral thing, I would think, because it brings them both there, and then it sends one of them back.
I think in my opinion, I think when the Warlock goes to the spiritualist and asks Satan why he brought him to that time period, I think that's a direct thing of Satan bringing him to that time period. I don't think they ever really explain why Redfern gets sent back in time, other than the fact that when the world works itself out, he has to go back to the time period he was originally supposed to be in. I just put that up as chance.
Yeah.
Good luck. He could have been stuck there in that time period, but he didn't.
Yeah. Well, no, I think to me, what justified it to me is I felt like, okay, if he goes back at the end, then that tells me that the Warlock did do something to create that initial time vortex. He had some kind of hand in that, because when he's dead, all his spells go away. So, because that's just like straight up movie logic, magic 101. That's a vampire thing too. If you kill the vampire who bit you, it turns you into a vampire, then you become a human being again. So I think, again, that's a vampire parallel with this movie where
it depends on the movie. Sometimes you can become you can become normal again as long as you haven't fed or whatnot, But it depends on the rules of the particular film, or book or whatever.
Yeah, but so he curses Laurie Singer, otherwise known as Cassandra with a K, and I love the way that he calls it. But what's cool about that, though, is that gives her motivation to want to buddy up with Richard E. Grant's Witchfinder and find the witch and get her stuff back. He's like, I keep saying, I'm only staying with you until I get my youth back, basically, is what she's saying.
I like, and it gives her really good motivation. But it's funny that at first she's okay. I mean, she's not necessarily okay with it, but she's like, she would rather just stay 40 than have to go face the Warlock again. But he's like, this isn't about you staying 40. You're going to go 20 years into the future every day, and you're going to die like in a few days from now. So then she has no choice but to go at that point. Yeah. But she would have stayed 40, dyed her hair, and just like lost 20 years, then have to face the Warlock and lose all over years,
Yeah. I also love that when she's asleep, her hair grows super long and her nails grow super long too.
Right.
Yeah. Which makes me think of M. Night Shyamalan's Old, where they do a similar thing, but the only thing that doesn't age is the hair and the nails. And I think they explained it in that movie, but it didn't make any sense to me. So this is the way you should have done it, M. Night Shyamalan.
He just didn't want to do it. They don't happen in M. Night's because he didn't want to. That's why. It's like I don't want to do that.
Oh my god!
But it makes sense. Yeah. It makes sense though that her hair and stuff grows, because that's what it's like
20 years.
20 years go past, and it's funny that she has to cut her hair. I like her performance though when she's 40, especially. I think it's I know apparently the actors hated it, but like doing it. But I thought she was very like that time period. I like her better 40 than any of the younger one or the older one.
Well, her hair kind of weirds me out though. Like as soon as she starts aging, it really looks like a wig.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it does not the best makeup job. I mean, that's true, but I do like her acting though.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's
very,
like she
very.
matures a little bit.
Yeah.
More than
Yeah,
one
man, it
way.
was weird though. It's weird though, like the 41, because it's like she nails it, it seems like. The 60, maybe not as much, but she really, I mean, and it's funny because she's almost like, I guess, I don't know how old like Richard Grant's character is supposed to be, but he looks like he could be 40. I mean, he's clearly younger than that, but the way he's dressed and the way he looks, like she's almost like the match for him when she's 40.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking Richard E. Grant is like 25
Yeah,
because
yeah.
back in the day,
Yeah.
back in the 1600s, like the average, the life expectancy, if you were like 40 or 50, you were
Yeah.
that's like super old back then. You would be that's like the equivalent of being 90 today.
Yeah, right, yeah. But some of those guys like the old elders in town, how old do you think they were? Like really 40 or something? Because
Yeah, yes, they were
like
my
60,
age, Dave
yeah.
Watkins.
They weren't eating properly back then,
Yeah.
so they look
Yeah.
20 years older than they should be.
Actually, they were kind of eating. Well, it depends on where you were, but for the most part, we've discovered from looking at skulls on scale of medieval people. I mean, yeah, they were malnourished, but for the most part, they were actually eating better than we were because they didn't have processed foods and a lot of sugars back then. They know
Right.
this because they find out. I mean, I remember my dad, I think maybe it was this movie or another movie, but he was always like annoyed at how like people in the past having such perfect teeth. But especially in like the Middle Ages or something, he liked it better when it was like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they're like, you have terrible teeth and they look terrible. But actually, archaeologists have discovered that people in the Middle Ages, even the dirtiest poor, the poorest of the poor, had really good teeth because they had a almost no sugar diet back then.
Yeah.
So Richard E. Grant's teeth looking the way they do is actually period accurate. Weirdly enough.
Yeah. The sugar does mess up a lot of stuff. It's
Well, yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do some crazy stuff to our food here. Just
Yeah.
just
They probably had to deal with diabetes nearly as much back in the day.
Nope. Yeah, he probably wouldn't even know what diabetes was. He'd be like,
Yeah.
why dost thou have to prick thyself with thy needle?
Yeah.
We didn't have needles back then. We just ate the plants in the wild, and that made us, perfectly fine. That magic elixir of life.
Yeah, so he drank a lot because the water wasn't pure.
Yes.
The alcohol killed.
Oh Jesus! Well, the alcohol would have killed all the bacteria in their stomach and shit like that.
Oh yeah, and I love how when he asks her, "Where is thy well? My
Yeah.
well?" And you're like, "Oh yeah," she shows him the bathroom sink.
Yeah.
That
He's
was funny.
definitely yeah. He definitely doesn't know. I mean, I don't know how long he's been there, if he's been there a full day or not. But I don't. I feel like he just appeared. He just had gotten there. But
Yeah,
I've
I think so
always
too.
yeah,
I think so too, and I feel like he should have been a little bit more freaked out about cars. I feel like he should have been a little bit more like reticent to get in her car, like thinking, how does this thing work? This magic. He thought, it's like,
yeah,
how is it moving without a horse? He should have been saying that.
yeah. Well, he does. He does see. He sees a car for the first time, and he's like, at that point, he says he's further in the future than he thought that he was. At that point.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind that he kind of reacts that way when he sees the plane.
Now that's understandable because that thing flies, and flying is of the devil.
Yeah.
Well, he's seen the plane before. He's seen it in the air, and he says it like I think he says it's some kind of weird bird or something. But he is like, we're actually going to get on the thing. We're gonna fly on it.
Oh my
But-
God. I think if they had that weird world where he got really crazy reactions to everything in the future, it would have taken away from the movie itself. It's not
Yeah.
like I previously mentioned, which is Beastmaster 2 through the portal of time. When the Beastmaster comes into the real universe, he's like, "Oh my God, what's all this crazy stuff here?" Type of thing, and it's funny for the movie, but it's really stupid when you. I don't know if you've watched the movie or seen the movie, but when you rewatch the movie in this day and age, it looks really hammy, campy, and stupid. Not to say,
Well, yeah, I think that it's really well done in Hocus Pocus when they see the cars for the first time. But but in that movie and this movie, once you see it, you're kind of like, okay, I'm not where I was before. There's going to be things I'm not used to seeing.
yeah,
And you gotta kind of got to get that in your head and not be surprised by every little thing that's different.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, speaking of technology, that should probably weird them out a little bit. I think it's hilarious um, that like one of my maybe my third or fourth favorite scene in this movie is there's this whole sequence where Warlock is just hanging out with a random kid on a tire swing.
Yeah.
He was just there in the middle of the
Yeah. Yeah.
desert, and he's just like the
Yeah.
kid's playing Madden 2014 or not 20,
Yeah.
Madden like 81 on a little one of those little handheld beep 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 things that I'm sure every 80s and 90s kid had, and I think I had at one point. And he's just like, "Oh, sure." And then he's looking at that, and the church bell rings, and he's like, and Warlock's like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's the church down there." And he's like, "Well, aren't you going in?" He's like, "No, my dad doesn't like any of that Jesus and the 12 apostrophes stuff."
Yes.
And then that gets into the point where he's like, clearly this kid's not baptized.
yeah,
And but that is the kid who asks them about witches and like, yeah,
yeah.
you're a boy. How you can't be a witch? He's like, of course there could be male witches. And like, well, but don't you have a broomstick? Don't you need a broomstick to fly? It's like, I don't need a broomstick to fly.
Yeah.
Well, what do you need? And then of course he goes, hey, 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 hey,
Yeah.
hey, hey.
I
Oh,
thought
and
that was
it's
really clever the way they did that. And then, of course,
yes.
we don't
But
see him kill the kid. We see kind of like the reaction of the people in the town who think it was a coyote, and they go after and kill the coyote. I thought that was
yeah.
a clever way
Yeah.
of doing that. Um,
Yeah, it is clever, but I forgot to mention that like before he does that though, the boy gives him the video game to play
yeah,
and he actually starts trying to do it. And he's like, "Oh, come on, dude. Nobody hits pass on the first down, not even Tampa Bay." Which made me laugh very hard because I am from Florida and I thought, "Oh, this is wonderful." A reference to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a horror movie from the 80s.
So this is the scene that was basically a real life crime
I knew
happened
it. This is the
because
thing
of
that
this.
ruined it for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes.
But there is a kind of a not necessarily a silver lining, but it is not a crime happened. Maybe not, but the person that did it is mentally insane, and they would have done something anyway. Had it not been for this movie, it probably would have been something else.
Well, there's no
Yeah,
indication unless you read something different. But
yeah.
I don't think there's any indication that this guy did the killings based on this movie.
He said
Did
that
he?
he did.
He
But
said that
here,
he did.
yeah,
Oh
he
no.
was like, I think he was 14 years old. He had an 8-year-old accomplice. There were two kids. They'd seen the movie and they it killed another kid. They wanted to boil his fat and fly is
Yeah,
what they wanted to.
apparently,
Yeah,
yeah, his name was Sandy Charles.
yeah.
And in 1995, in that crime-ridden capital, Saskatchewan, Canada, he and this crazy evil dude, Sandy, he took, like you said, an 8-year-old boy. Somehow he convinced this kid to go with him, and they found a 7-year-old boy and murdered him. And just like in this movie, they cut off his skin, boiled his fat, drank it, in the hopes
Well,
that it would make them
well,
fly.
they said they ended up not drinking it because they decided they wanted not to fly after all. They wanted to stay normal. But they did
Oh,
all
really?
that, and then they decided at the last minute not to drink it, which I guess is pretty it's pretty ridiculous either way. But I don't know what happened. The 8-year-old was too young to be tried too
Well,
much.
I can
Yeah,
tell you
yeah.
what happened right here. I found it. The
But
Charles, what's his name? Sandy Charles was actually found not guilty because his lawyers pushed the insanity plea.
yeah,
But he was sent to a mental institution in Saskatoon, Canada, and hopefully he's still there
right. Well,
because
yeah.
somehow,
I was gonna say I don't know what happened to the 8-year-old. I do know what happened to him. But here's so after that he did get out. They not all the way out, but then he wasn't well enough. They put him back in there. So
Well, thank God.
so the guy is like he's mentally unable to handle reality that he's been in an institution since he did this. So no matter if he had done this or whatever, he wasn't ever going to be like able to have a legit life. He's mentally ill in a way that they can't control him. He has to stay in a mental institution. It's disgusting that it happened. I don't know if we could kind of blame it maybe on the movie, but he could have watched any other movie and come up with some
Mhm.
similar thing, Now it's like, it's terrible though, and it kind of puts a little bit of damper on this film. Last time I was watching it, I got to this scene and I started reading about it, and then I didn't ever finish watching the film after that because I
Real
just started thinking about it. But then, like I just never finished it. I'd seen it before, but then this time I just went with it with that in my mind. I'm like, it doesn't matter if he was watching Warlock or some other horror movie, he would have found some way to kill somebody because
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, the same thing. Like we like Thomas watches this film and he dresses like a wizard. He don't go around like trying to kill people. He tries to play wizard and he has fun with it. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? But then some other kid who's mentally ill takes a different part of the film and thinks he's going to go kill somebody and fly. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Yeah. It
yeah,
reminds me.
yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. No, I'd say it's unable to separate reality from a film, which is. Which I guess it's like something my parents really tried to. They did. I mean, I understood it pretty quickly, but they definitely wanted me to understand that what I was watching on TV wasn't real, and it was like a movie. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they would explain to me why. I remember seeing this scene where there's like this old couple in a van that drove over the side of the cliff. And they're like, they didn't really drive over the cliff. That was a movie. Like, I'm like, but yeah, but they drove off the cliff. And she's like, no, but the scene when you see them inside the van, they shot that later. And like the van flying over was just like, no, nobody was in it. So,
What movie was
yeah, yeah.
this?
I don't know. It was like some old, I don't remember. I don't know the name of it, but I remember seeing it and it was just like, oh my God, they drove over the side of the cliff. It was like a kid's movie. I think the grandparents died or something. And I was like, what? That was crazy. But yeah, but they were trying. They definitely went out of the way to try to explain that to me. And then I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. But and I got it then, and I still get it now. But if you start to think that this shit's real, you might have a problem.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, it reminds me of that quote from as it's attributed to the Marquise de Sade, but I think it's apocryphal. But they saw it in Quills with Jeffrey Rush, where he was saying nobody would blame the Bible if some guy read the Walking on Water portion and went out and drowned.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the Bible that if people went and did it, they could blame it on the Bible. They could be like, this happened in the
Yeah.
Bible, and you know, David cut off Goliath's head. I just cut off this dude's head because David did it in the Bible. Yeah. You
Yeah,
could
you
get
know.
like, yeah, you could get any of that from any book you
Yeah.
read or any media of any sort. It's even worse now with the video games. You play like Grand Theft Auto. They go around like wrecking cars and raping women and stuff and whatever they're gonna do.
Yeah, I
So
don't know.
it's
Video games, I don't know. Some because there's a participatory element to video games that I think makes that line a little bit,
Larry.
grayer. I mean, I do think that like there is a point to which the artists do have a responsibility
You think
to
so?
things, but it's very wide, like there is a point where like if you
a bad one's in Natural Born Killers, for
Yeah,
instance.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you're portraying realistic violence and you're glorifying it and you're shooting for an impressionable audience, that's irresponsible and that's not good.
I
But
mean,
I'm not.
not, yeah.
I'm not saying that such things should be banned or destroyed by the
Yeah.
government or anything. I'm just saying that from a more strictly moral standpoint, that's the line. But this movie is not
Yeah. Right.
that.
Well, I'd say the good and the bad thing about it is the movies don't have the influence they used to have. Like Natural Born Killers did influence like killings as well, but they don't have the same influence on people that they used to have because that was the medium back then. Now it's like it's spread out a lot more.
Yeah, nowadays it's games and social media now is
Yeah.
what influences people.
Yeah,
Right.
but those Ooh, that's a strange conversation to have while we're talking about the movie Warlock.
Well, I knew it was going to have to happen because of this real life murder case during the film. Unfortunately, I feel bad not mentioning it because it happened,
Well,
you know.
Yeah, no, I think we.
it's
Yeah,
post the
Yeah.
film, not like something that happened during the making of the film or when the film was
Yeah.
released. What you're saying happened in '95, so it's something that's a result of it. But I am a hard believer that films do not influence people to do things badly. I think a mentally unstable person sees something that they want to emulate, and that is either a nature or nurture thing. It is not a thing of film. Even when Natural Born Killers came out, that is definitely not a reason for anyone to go out there and kill people because they saw it in a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an excuse and a stupid excuse.
It's an excuse. And that film is so far from being realistic, it is ridiculous. It's a highly stylized movie from beginning to end. In no way can you possibly see that and see that as reality. It is meant to be a hard critique on society and everything else, which is what most movies that steer that close to realistic themes are. That they don't. I don't think any of them actually go out of the way of glorifying violence, as in the more like something like maybe like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer might be glorifying violence because obviously he doesn't survive at the end of the movie. I mean, he survives at the end of the movie, but like Natural Born Killers is Oliver Stone movie, whose all of his films have been highly polarizing because he talks about subject matters that no other filmmaker were doing back then. Like
it's written by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, it's written by Quentin Tarantino, but still directed by
Oliver Stone.
So it doesn't feel like a Quentin Tarantino film because Quentin Tarantino didn't have a necessary style when that movie came out. That was Oliver Stone.
Well, the style's different, but the subject matter is the same, and the way that it ends is very Quentin Tarantino-ish. But again, I mean, it is the mentally unhealthy people. It's not the movie. It's like if they're gonna latch onto something, whether it be that or something else. But maybe they might get ideas that they may not have gotten otherwise. I mean, it happens sometimes. It sucks. I mean, it sucks that people are going to be that shitty sometimes.
But every person who's done something bad always has to blame someone else for their bad choices and their bad behavior. And then, of course, the media, in my opinion, takes that and runs with it as a headlining story. And then we, as the audience, takes that in from that perspective, and then we chew it up. We sensationalize it. We blow it out of proportion, just like it was blown out of proportion by the original people who wrote that story. And that's how I look at it. But inherently, art in any form is not designed to make other people go out there and do violent acts.
Right.
Even the religious art from back in I can't even tell you what the religious art, like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, who were doing risque art, showing nude figures of biblical people, which was risque and against most people's belief in in God. Is now considered some of the best artwork out there ever made. But back when it was made, a lot of that was seen as sacrilegious and beyond what normal people would have conceived of. Like, people were up in arms and angry at some of that stuff back then.
This, I mean, clearly, like this, no one wanted that to happen, and this is actually a really good scene between the Warlock and the kid, and it is nice you don't actually see him get killed too, but it's pretty gruesome when they talk about finding the skinned kid, like, and they're just kind of, then you see him with the friggin' like fat in a glass, and he drinks it, and he's able to fly.
Not only that, like he made a campsite with like a grill and a little can, an empty can. Like, and there's like a wrecked car behind him. Like, where did he get all this stuff? There's like a whole other movie happening behind the scenes, between the scenes of this movie, where he's just going around randomly collecting stuff and probably killing. What's funny, like, there's so much off-screen implied death in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, if y'all out there are like slasher fans and you're expecting this to be like a different kind of slasher, that's not what you're going to get with this movie. Because I counted, he only kills 3 people in this movie. And one of them, the kid, is off screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So his body count is not really very high. If you want more of that, ladies and gentlemen, just skip and go right to Warlock 2, The Armageddon, because they cranked that up to 11.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he doesn't really kill that many people in this movie. He just kind of does some hexes and
he's got
around.
He's got a mission and he's trying to do that, but he does injure some people, going forward. He tries to kill some people, but he's more trying to carry out his mission, and he's not that concerned with necessarily killing people like he was before he started his mission. He was just having fun before that, but now it's like, man, we got something we got to do.
He's having a bit of a laugh.
Like what he curses Laurie, he curses the Mennonite guy. But he doesn't really just go out of his way to kill lots of people just to kill people unless he has a purpose for it.
I mean, technically speaking, he's going to kill everybody, but really, uncreation, or is the same. I don't think that's necessarily the same thing as killing, because you're uncreating them. I don't know. It's weird. It's a deep theological question that I can't really get into at the moment. But but right after that, when they figure out what he did to this kid, and they go and track him down to his next point, the Mennonite barn. And I love how the Mennonite guy in this is great, because he is the only guy that Redfern can talk to. He's like, oh, finally somebody who speaks my language.
I like the guy. Yeah, I thought he was Amish at first, but he almost looked Amish. Like, he's got like a white beard and like an Amish looking wardrobe. And it's funny, like his son and his daughter-in-law look kind of normal. They're kind of normal, dressed like farmers, but he's dressed all like
he's a traditionalist.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the fact that he, the father or grandfather, I don't know how you want to say, he is a traditionalist. He knows the old ways, and and his son and the daughter-in-law are this modern family that knows of the old traditions, but doesn't necessarily, follows them directly.
That's the way it is with Mennonite people, and I figured he was Mennonite because the biggest difference between Mennonites and Amish in terms of their colors or in terms of their outfits is like the Amish never wear buttons.
Okay, yeah,
and that guy's got buttons.
Right. Well, it's a good thing that he's not Amish. Then they actually say that he's Mennonite, and they're like he thinks he's Amish at first too. But I like that it shows them first, like by themselves, and the main dude, the Mennonite guy, starts to notice weird things around the farm. Like, was it the horse is wet in the morning? It's sweat in the morning. Yeah, and
the cream is curdled.
Yeah, the cream's curdled.
The crops are dying and all that type of stuff. He notices all that stuff right off the bat. So you can see that he has retained his heritage.
And he notices that the attic door is a little bit ajar. So he's thinking, oh, there's got to be a witch up there. So he climbs up a ladder and draws a big old pentagram, which might confuse some people, but might think, oh, wait a minute, isn't a pentagram like a satanic thing? No, it's not.
He calls it a hex mark.
They call it a hex mark in the sense that it's a mark that's supposed to ward off evil. And actually, we might find several barns throughout the older ones, especially, that might still have a star like that over them. They might not have a pentagram because of its association with Satanism, but they might still have stars, and that's why. Because the pentacle, which is really what that is, the upright pentagram that is actually a sign of, is actually associated with Adam, the first man, and it has been seen throughout the ages as like a symbol of positive power and a ward against evil. So that's why he makes that as part of the hex mark. Again, Tom Twee did his research on this, and that's how he traps the warlock in that barn up there. And so
Well,
that's how.
the warlocks, the warlocks in the house, but I think he puts the hex mark or the upside down, the pentagram on there. I think he does it because that attracts Redfern. He sees it, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's weird that he puts it on the barn and not the house because he knows that the warlock's in the attic of the house.
Well, also, if you remember, the hex mark is also in the beginning of the movie. It's in the door to the tower.
Tower,
Yeah.
or the tower, and it's on his Redfern's grave when they get in the gravesite too. So
Yeah, so that's it's supposed to ward him off, but also it's going to keep him trapped in there. And so that's when what's his name? I keep forgetting Redfern's name. I just keep calling him Grant. So Richard E. Grant's going to go up there, and I love how he says, "Take these pennies, put them in your mouth to ward off any inerrant magic." And they spent most of the time grabbing these pennies in their mouths, which is
It's funny the way he doesn't do it himself, but he gives them pennies.
why not?
he's got plenty of other charms in his pockets.
Yeah, he's not gonna look like a fool with those pennies in his mouth.
I think that's what it really was. I think you know what's funny is like when you're that character in that setting and you're the expert on something that nobody else knows anything about, they have to believe you no matter what it is.
Yeah.
So like he could play a practical joke on people and make them look ridiculous.
Yeah.
They would have to take him seriously. It would have been hilarious if they did this movie today. They would totally do that where they'd be like, "Okay, put the pennies in my mouth." And they're like, "Well, why do I have to do that?" "Oh, I just wanted to see if you would do it."
That would be something. The way I see Redfern is the same way I see the characters of John Constantine and Hellboy. These are like demon specialists, but they don't always do what they tell other people to do. Like, so that's how I see Redfern. Like they know all about this. They have the knowledge of everything that has to do with demons and otherworldly stuff, but yet they don't actually pay that much attention to their own knowledge. They make other people do it because they're like too good for it.
Yeah, I guess. But like, I love how when he goes up into the attic and he gets attacked by a bat. Because of course, I thought for sure, oh wait, even though this is a point from which I had seen this movie as a kid, I did not remember the bat, and I thought, oh, he's figured out how to turn himself into bats.
Yeah,
because that's a magic thing. But nope, turns out it's just a random bat, and he kills it.
Very random bat, and it looks pretty good, I guess, but it looks kind of a little cartoony. But
when it's flying, it looks good. When it's dead and squished, it doesn't look very realistic at all.
I mean, it's kind of funny though. That is a very random thing. There, bat up there, and it tries to. It's funny how he throws the knife and kills it though. He's like that good with a knife.
Oh yeah.
Well, remember he does throw the weather vane.
Oh yeah.
Weather vane, and it strikes the warlock in the back with it the first time he throws. He's like, and you guys can't see this when you're listening to this, but he's like sizing it up by sight, and he does that multiple times too with that.
Yeah.
Like that's his preferred weapon after he loses the whip.
Right.
It's like he's a champion javelin thrower in his village.
Yeah, I mean he's very, very efficient with weapons, and it's cool. It's a cool character, really. The Warlock Hunter is a cool character.
Yeah, it's like I said, he's like Simon Beaufont. He's a Van Helsing to this character's to Warlock's Dracula. It's very, very Van Helsing-y, and also it's another clever thing this movie does where the Warlock starts. The way he takes the pages with him is he opens his black jacket, puts the pages against his chest, and zips it up, and it becomes like a bulletproof vest to him.
Yeah. It actually worked pretty good. Is that then he sees what's weird is like, so there's one page that he finds from the book up in the attic, and he rips it in half and it puts itself back together. So the book is kind of indestructible, apparently. But then he goes back downstairs and he's just like, I guess he's not up there, but there's a page at the book. And then Cassandra, this is a pretty damn funny line she says. She's like, if this thing is so bitching to witches, why would he leave a page? And then she says that with pennies in her mouth,
And he's like, he would not.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is kind of weird that I wonder why he ended up with the page outside of the other pages. Like the Warlock just left the page by mistake.
I don't know. And also, something just occurs to me, like if the book is indestructible, How did they tear it in 3 pieces in the first place?
Well, it looks like you could. Yeah, you think it would put itself back together? Yeah, that's a good point because
Well, no, that's why they separated it in multiple different places.
So that means that the binding, the binder, that's not part of the sacred, the profane evil grimoire. That's not part of it. Everything else is magical.
Well, you got to remember, we're not privy to what what the original religious people did when they had the book and they separated it and were supposed to put it in 3 separate locations on consecrated ground. We're not privy to what exactly they did for that. I mean, it's not the first film where they did that type of concept. I mean, if you saw, what was it, Bordello or Blood, or the Hellboy with the guy from Stranger Things, it's the same kind of concept they did with the witch who was indestructible. They just
Well, I mean, this movie was before both of those films, but it probably happened before this too.
Yeah, but that's the same kind of concept.
Yeah,
where it's something that's indestructible, and the only way you can deal with it is to split it up as best you can and keep the pieces away from each other.
it's like the Triforce in Zelda.
Now that's a reference people would understand, David.
But yeah, I mean, Thomas makes a good point though. It's kind of funny that the binding can be taken apart, but not the pages themselves. So you think the book would be wanting to put itself back together, even if it was separated by however far away it is. It would be like constantly trying to move and get back to the other pages, you know.
And I think some of that might be explained by the fact that whatever the Warlock chants when he has the whole book, he chants that or spells, it's a spell, and then that's the only way the book recombines itself into one big manuscript, and then it falls on the ground almost like it's cracking the earth when it hits the ground. So some hex or something had to have been said to split the book up, and then another hex had to have been said to put it all back together again.
It did, you know. I guess the other question too, if they could split it into 3 parts, why not like every page separate? You know, they could have hit it.
But that would have been a huge undertaking, though, Dave.
Keep in mind that this was maybe 300 years or more ago that the book was split up.
That would have been such a pain in the butt, though. Yeah. And maybe if they made a Warlock TV series, that's exactly what they would have done. Yeah. Every episode, he'd find a new page, every single episode, and they would spread it out over like 100 episodes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be terrible, actually. But that
you mentioned that. I hate to say this. You know, Marvel Comics did that same concept with their Darkhold of comic book, where it was split up and every issue went to finding pages of the Darkhold to put it all back together again. And it was during the 90s, so I wouldn't be surprised if like some of this rubbed off on that, because that was I remember that for the 90s where that came, and I would guarantee you it was probably rubbed off from this.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so in this, yeah.
Well, so ladies and gentlemen out there who are still listening to this podcast, you faithful fans out there, we do have to tell you here that this part we're about to talk about in the movie is probably one of the greatest sequences in the entire thing. It's the whole chase between when he's flying out of the barn, beating the crap out of Richard E. Grant, and then Richard E. Grant uses the whip, which is all salted with his own mouth. Yuck. and wraps it around the foot of the Warlock, and the Warlock's dragging him across the field, and then he gets into the upper loft of the barn, and there's like a moment where they're waiting for him to come out, and he comes out, and then that's where he throws the weather vane at him and nails him down back to the ground, and it just goes crazier from there. It's great.
It's such a great scene. There's a really cool shot too when the Warlock's flying in the air. There's like one that's above the Warlock's face, shooting down towards Richard. What was his name?
Richard E. Grant.
The Redfern character, played by Richard E. Grant. But the camera's like above Julian Sand's face, and it's like, you know, and it's such a great shot, and it's moving like it's on a crane, the camera itself, and it's funny that he loses his whip, I guess, during that sequence, but it's a really awesome sequence, though. That one definitely stuck in my mind when I was watching. I was like, hell yeah! I remember when I was seeing that, and it's so crazy because it's right in the middle of the movie, and it's just like, damn, this movie's pretty good, you know.
Well, the movie also doesn't play with a lot of those horror tropes. I mean, this is one of the great sequences of the movie, and it's broad daylight when this is all happening. So we see everything in its great glory. You know, and then of course after the weatherman gets stuck in Julian Sands' back, because to be honest with you, we do see Julian Sands goes through a little torture in this movie, even though he's been torturing other people.
Yeah.
Him screaming when that thing's in his back, and that's when Redford brings out the what do you call this?
I would call them the thumb and toe screws. That's what we're gonna call them.
We get to actually see it being applied. We saw it at the very beginning of the movie, but now we're seeing it being applied to the Warlock. And
this is how the witch hunters hunt witches and cuff them. Basically, this is a cop taking down a perp. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then of course, unfortunately, the Warlock ends up catching sight of the Mennonite guy and cursing him for
Don't look in his eyes.
Yeah, for his eyes to continuously bleed. It's a really interesting sequence because the Redfern decides to save this guy. Because in his past, he hasn't been able to save a lot of people. He's watched the Warlock kill a lot of people. And then we see Cassandra for the first time on her own against the Warlock.
And she goes after him, but he's hobbled. I was thinking for a little bit, like, wait a minute, why doesn't he just fly away and be gone? Then I realized, he's still got half of the thumb and toe screw on his feet, and he's just hobbling around like, this freaking thing. I hate this freaking thing. He's trying to get it off him. And he ends up hobbling over to a train station or a train depot. I'm sorry, where it's just wow. Okay, that was just right next door to this farm, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Redfern does give her like a hammer and a nail, and he's like, you need to nail these into his footprints, and she's just like, what the hell's that gonna do?
He said, what does he say? Give me a gun. Give me a gun. What's a hammer?
Yeah. It is really good because there's a lot at stake for her, and I like that it's her she's gonna die in this next day. I mean, going from 60 that was 80, that's not going to go over too damn good. She's not going to be very useful after this. So it's like, but she knows this is her last day, and she has a lot at stake. And I like that she's 60 and she's having a trouble chasing him, but she still has to do it,
Mm-hmm. And he's finally getting the things off him, but then he hides in a caboose, in like a hobo in one of the train cars, and she's like hunting around for footprints, hunting around, and she sees one, and then bam, right in the ground, and he goes like psychically he feels the pain in his foot, and that's what was gonna do, which is so creative. And then she hears his scream, and she knows she's close, so she does it again. He screams more, but apparently putting a board against your feet stops the pain. Weirdly,
the nails actually go into the board. You see, you see it go through it.
Yeah, it's weird.
He gets nailed to the boards in the train, and then he pulls that piece of board out of the train, but he knows what's going on, which is why he tries to keep his mouth quiet. Because she nails a couple more times, but she doesn't hear him scream. And then she sees the head print on the mound of dirt, which I thought was extremely clever. Clever. Let's put a nail in his freaking head. Clank. And then of course he screams, and his hand falls out of the train, and that leads her to see where he actually is. I thought that whole sequence was extremely clever because she goes after him because she sees her bracelet around his wrist.
Mm-hmm.
But now that bracelet isn't always around his wrist. I almost feel like he's doing this on purpose to get her over there. Because
I think he was hiding. I think what it was is that they're not very consistent with showing it on his wrist earlier, but you could explain it away by basically being like, he's maybe he's a neurodivergent warlock. He just he puts it away. Sometimes he takes it back out and fidgets with it. It's a fidget for him. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not.
You know what? I'd have to rewatch that again and notice that. I just kind of assumed that it was up the sleeve of his outfit.
Yeah, it's a possibility too. I mean, I guess I was just thinking that maybe he was he was knew she was coming because she got him in the head, and so he's like, how am I going to stop her? I'm going to get her over here near me, and I'll grab her, which he tries to do, which she gets close to him,
But then the train starts to move. And then she has to run. But she can't run very fast because she's old and it's getting further and further away because the train's going faster and faster. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's so nerve-wracking.
It's a highly suspenseful scene the first time you watch it. Because you're kind of wondering, is she going to get close enough? Is she going to get close enough? And it feels like she's further behind. And then, you're seeing this 60-year-old woman trying to race to get it. She even falls at one point.
Mm-hmm.
She catches back up with it. And then when she gets really close, the Warlock actually sees her. And they do a short little tussle. But it's funny because she's using a hammer against them.
She bounced him with the hammer.
But then she falls back because she gets knocked down, and thankfully for her, that the bracelet is on the hammer, and she's retrieved her hammer
and her youth.
Her bracelet with the hammer. So I actually really enjoyed that whole sequence. Except for I just realized this when I rewatched it, that Redfern says that the only way to reverse it is to get the bracelet back, and he can help her with a spell to undo it, but there's no spell that he does. She just gets it back, and then she goes back to normal again.
Yep. The writer forgot about that.
Yeah, this is the first time I noticed that. I never noticed that until now. I was like, well, maybe Redfern don't know all that he's talking about, but I was like, I don't know. I think that was just one of the little screw ups that maybe, it's just better to not have to do another spell.
Right. Yeah, it's better that it's the reveal of her being young is pretty good too.
It's a very good reveal.
It's kind of hilarious too, because then she tries to kiss him and he just walks past her,
because he ain't got time for that.
Yeah, you don't even notice. She's like, it's funny how she pops in. She's like, "It's me. I'm young again." He's like, "Yeah, I don't really fucking care." But
I got a Warlock to hunt.
He's got Warlock to hunt. He's got a Warlock to kill, and his wife has already been. He's a widow, so he's thinking about that.
It's so funny how she's like hung up on him, and he's just that he's really oblivious to it. He doesn't really like her that much, He's just like, he doesn't notice it.
I think the conversation in the car when she asks him about his wife, I think it makes them a more personable two-person character building thing. I think that's what allows her to get close to him, and him to actually not be that guy who just slaps her around and uses her for a taxi driver. Yeah.
But here's when it's like, she's basically the whole time she's like, once I get young again, I'm leaving, and then at that point, she's like, I'm gonna leave, and she might have stayed had he like made out with her and shit, but like since he doesn't do that, she's like, okay, I'm young again, I'm gonna leave, and he's like, but then he tells her what's really at stake.
Oh, but like she's gonna leave, but the way she leaves is she gives him, this 16th century dude, her car keys and says, "Here, you can drive now." He's like, "What? The gas, the right pedal makes it go, the left pedal makes it stop. You now know more about driving than I did when I was 16. Have a good life." And she's about to go. And what's hilarious is, you remember when she had to get out and she put all her stuff in the back of her car? That stuff's still there. So basically, she's about to abandon all of her worldly possessions and leave it with Richard Redfern,
Well, it's safer than continuing to go after the Warlock, because he's not going to be, like she says, he's not going to be too happy next time. This time he put this curse on her. Next time he's just going to kill her, which he probably would.
Right. So she wants to leave, and she gives him her credit card. She's like, just use this. Just let them swipe it, sign it, just put any name. Trust me, they never check.
Yeah.
The innocence of the late 80s back then. Nowadays,
Well, I mean, they still might not check depending on where you go. It's kind of reminds. It's funny though, like in there's some movie where they ran a card and the card was declined, and then they just took out scissors and cut it, like back in the 80s. It's like, wow, you just cut someone's card because it was declined,
Yeah, man, weird. But like he has to. She's gone from the plot. She wants to be out of here, but he needs her, and he knows this. So of course, what does he got to do? He's got to tell her what's at stake. So he tells her, "Do you know what that book is going to do? Do you know what it really?" He's like, "No." She's like, "Nope, nope, nope, no. I don't want to know." La 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 la. And he just says that it has the lost name of God in it, and if anyone were to incant it backwards, it would unmake all of creation. And she goes, "What?" And that's when she decides, "Oh, the fate of the world is at stake. I better be part of this after all."
Right. He definitely needs her help to help drive and all that. And she knows all the modern day stuff. He's kind of lost. And
yeah, because she didn't explain how gears work.
Yeah.
Right? He wouldn't know how to stop the car. Yeah. He wouldn't know how to put it in park or reverse or anything.
It wouldn't have gone too good. But yeah, I mean, with that going on, you can't really not partake in what happens next.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the airport part happens next, which is pretty hilarious, and that's some of the more comedy with it, with them having to deal with the airport and the credit card again. She tries to pay for the plane. I don't know if this would actually work, but she tries to pay for the plane with a credit card, and she knows she doesn't have enough money on there. And when the lady's distracted, she unplugs the computer, and the lady looks back at the credit card machine, and instead of like going to a different credit card machine, I guess she just lets them on the plane. So.
Well, no, that's in reality, and you don't see this actually in the scene. But what happens is they bring out the old school credit card swipe.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So in the because I worked at a grocery store, I had to do that all the time. Whenever we lost power, we still had to take the information, and they wouldn't know that it wouldn't go through for several days because it takes.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
You know what? You're right. I used to do that too.
I forgot about that. I forgot. It's been such a long time.
It's been such a long time. Dude.
Yeah.
I was laughing too. No, when I was rewatching, I was laughing too, and then the logic hit me only because I worked at the grocery store and had to do that myself so many times. I was like, oh, okay, but this is the late 80s. I'm gonna let this slide. Because I used to do this. I know.
and it would have made complete sense back then. It's kind of funny that she unplugs it too, though. Yeah, that's of course like the flawed too part of it. There's all these other lines. There's plenty of other credit card machines. She could have just went over to another line, but
I guess.
Yeah.
Nowadays, all the computers are linked. They could just do that. But back in the late 80s, that probably would have been a pain in the ass to do.
Yeah. But it's a funny scene though.
It is funny. It is.
Yes. I mean, it's probably part of the reason why they haven't remade this movie yet, because they hadn't figured out ways around these little problems.
Yeah. Right.
But like, it's also funny how like there's several funny lines and things that are twisted on their heads, and like we forgot to mention the little Freudian slip that Mary Warnock's character had when she saw him. That was like a sexual kind of Freudian slip. I can't remember.
Right. Yeah.
I just remember it made me laugh. And this time they do have a little bit of fun with Redfern's vocabulary when he's like, "We have to search this plane. You go hither. I'll go thither." And like they're not consistent with what hither and thither means, which I think is funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they do that throughout the movie. But yeah, so like I can't believe that he's able to get that weather vane thing on the plane, but he does.
It's fun. The whole thing's funny though, but then the plane that we've discussed a lot of the plane stuff already. But then which is a great sequence too, and it's like it really lightens up in that part of the film where we get away from a lot of the violent stuff. I think that the Mennonite guy, which we didn't mention, he survives, and they put him on a bed, and he has to rotate something every hour.
His keys above his head.
Iron keys above his head.
Yeah,
everything's got to be iron. So
I don't know about you guys, but like I don't know how I felt about it back then. But now when I'm watching it, I'm like really relieved that they didn't kill him off. I was just like, he's such a helpful dude, and he's such a nice character, and it was like I was glad they didn't kill him.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, he's the only guy that Rayburn can talk to. Yeah. He's the only one who speaks in language of "you are bewitched, you know these signs." He's the only guy who's still in that era, basically. So it's a good thing that he survives. But it also shows how like that Rayburn cares and that he's good at what he does. He's not incompetent. Although I think we've decided that there are some things he just doesn't know. He's not that great at. But it's at this point in the plot where Lori Cassandra starts taking control of the plot a little bit. She's like, I'm running this show right now because it's her idea to go and find the last part of the book before the Warlock does. Mm-hmm. So that's why they get on the plane in the first place, because the plane's going to fly faster than he can. Of course, he gets into the cargo hold, and I love that the very last thing we see in the plane sequence is what he's doing in the cargo hold. He's just like sitting there chilling and heating up his lunch, apparently with some magic fire.
Right, yeah.
And then, of course, as soon as they open the cargo hold, he just zooms right out of there because I'm sure it stinks because it's a long flight and there's no bathroom in there. Use your imagination, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some supernatural powers. I thought I didn't know if planes were pressurized in the cargo hold. Some of them might be. I guess if they have to house dogs or something like that, they have to be.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't, I'm sure he'd make some kind of magic balloon around his head or something.
Yeah. Well, he's. But then,
or put the pages of the grimoire around his head so it doesn't explode.
Right. That's where they go to find that priest, who they know the priest has a book that will. I don't remember how they know, but he has a book that will tell them where all the parts are, and they already know where two of them are anyway. And he has a wife. He looks across the road. When he goes in there, he's got a pregnant wife who's up in the window. So something's up with that. I wouldn't show
They live right next door to this church, apparently.
Yeah.
And she's right there. But I don't think he's a priest because priests can't marry unless you're in the Orthodox Church, and that guy does not look Orthodox because he has no beard. But
doesn't he have like a priest collar on or something?
He does, but I think if you are a reverend in either A, the Church of England, or B, if you are a Methodist, I think you can have the priest have the priest collar. Same thing with Mel Gibson's character in Signs. He's a reverend and he has the collar.
I gotcha. Yeah. So
but he's also got a wife and kids. So,
that's the way to go, though. It's better to do that.
It is. It really is. Sorry to all our Catholic listeners out there, but we disagree with how your church does marriage and your clergy. But okay, we can disagree and still love.
I'm saying I would rather beat the priest that could have a wife and kids than beat the priest who doesn't have one.
Yeah, well, then you got to be Greek Orthodox.
Yeah.
But I love how this clergy guy, which is I don't know what denomination he is, so I just call him clergy instead of priest. He's reticent to show them the records at first because they got to know the records as to where the last piece of the grimoire is buried. And he's like, I don't know, but Richard E. Grant just lays into him why we got to do this. And I wish I wrote down that monologue because it's gold. Because he's like, we're going against a man who will not rest until God himself is thrown down and all creation made Satan's farting hole.
Yeah. Because the guy's he's leaving. He's like, it's the end of the day. It's night. He's like, I'm going home, man. And then he's like, you're not, because I'm going to lay this monologue on you, and you're going to love it. And so
it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally works.
This guy having a pregnant wife ends up being a bit of a problem for him later. But it's, he does it. He knows what's at stake, but then he has to. I guess it's a tough call because later on when the Warlock has his wife and he's going to talk about killing the baby and all that, and it's kind of hard not to give up what he knows at that point. But
and it's also and the actress playing his wife, I can't remember her name, but she was everywhere in the 80s and 90s. She was also in The Crow, and I think she was in Prophecy with Christopher Walken, which, by the way, that movie should also be on the list. And
right. There's 5 of those prophecy movies. Three of them have Christopher Walken in them.
Yeah, and only one of them's good.
Yeah, very true, very true.
She's
in something though that she looks so familiar. She's in something that I recognize her from.
She did a lot of indie, 90s Pulp Fiction-y type movies. She was everywhere. I can't remember her name, but God bless her because I know she's still working. I wish we knew your name now. But anyway, so like, but yeah, that's a great little sequence where the Warlock shows up and he makes an earthquake apparently because that's part of his power set too. Apparently, he's got limited telekinesis, and I guess he can create earthquakes because the earthquakes just like bust open the door and the little cross falls down from the wall, and he picks up the cross and puts it on the wall again, which little uncharacteristic.
That was awesome, though. It's like funny because he just didn't care. Cross apparently doesn't bother him at all. It's so funny that he almost does that just to show him that he could do it.
Yeah, he's like,
So her name's Anna Thompson, the actress's
that's right,
name.
Anna Thompson. So yeah,
She's in True Romance. Unforgiven is what I'm thinking. That's what I remember.
that's right. She was the cut. She was the cut whore from Unforgiven. Yes.
Yeah. And the Crow, like you said, but yeah. There's something about her, like it was like she's so familiar looking to me.
Yes, same here.
Yep. And she is the very, very, very pregnant wife who apparently has twins. And he's like, if you want your babies to not be horrible festering slugs, you'll tell me where they're going. And he's like, okay, but never says it. So I'm sure he's probably thinking it'll all work out in the end somehow.
Yeah, I mean that's what he is. I mean, you do have to hope for that because you got to think this Redfern guy seems like he knows what he's doing, and so like maybe he'll kill the Warlock when he gets out there, and the Warlock probably could have figured this out eventually some other way, but.
Yeah, because he's smart, he's got stuff, But of course, where they're going, ladies and gentlemen? To a graveyard, because of course, we have a graveyard in this movie. There has to be a graveyard in this, in this Warlock movie.
One other thing, though, I was going to say about that whole thing with the priest, and it's funny that they have to go in there and talk to the priest because this whole time he followed them on an airplane. He followed them to the airport, got on the airplane with them, and suddenly he can't track them anymore. Why can't he just watch what they're doing and go to the graveyard?
Yeah.
Well, I think. Well, that's a good point. I have to think about that.
I don't know. I don't. I guess I'm being a little too picky with this. But
unless the Warlock doesn't realize they're on the plane with him.
Yeah, maybe not.
Well, no, he does because he sees them. He's on the concourse. He's on that little.
He sees him. He may not necessarily see them though. I never got the impression that he saw them. I always got the impression she saw him. I never got that impression. So when he was in the plane, I just assumed that they both didn't know each other was on the plane. There's no way of there's no witch hunter signs that he would know that Redfern would be right above him, type of thing.
Yeah, I was just thinking he was following him, but yeah, it makes sense. I guess maybe the Warlock himself has figured out the airplane situation himself, and that's really the only plane. I guess the quickest plane going to where he needs to go. Maybe he figured all that out. And
I see the Warlock as someone who's much easier to grasp the modern day world than Redfern.
Do you think he keeps his promise to the priest and the priest? I mean, not the clergyman and the clergyman's wife, and doesn't kill him and lets the baby live. What do you think happens there?
I think, if I may, I think he kept his promise because there's nothing that he does earlier that indicates that he doesn't follow through on everything he says. Like he doesn't really lead anyone astray. Like truthfully, we don't really have enough information to say one way or the other.
Not in this movie, though.
But I think it is interesting that according to IMDb, there was a earlier draft of this movie that was radically different, where Twee basically wrote a movie about a benevolent warlock who time traveled to the future to escape persecution and was followed by the witch hunter, and the whole dynamic was completely reversed. And so I think some of that stuff is a holdover from the previous draft, like when he's just hanging out with the kid that he's about to skin, but like he's not doing anything evil to him at first. In fact, he even tries to play his football game for a little bit, So yeah, so I don't think even though he's supposed to be the son of Satan and evil incarnate, he's
Yeah.
not evil all the time to everybody.
Well, he
But
kills the
yeah,
kid, of course, but like here, but yeah, I mean, this to me, like this scene is like the only time he acts the way that he acts in the scene. But I mean, I hope he didn't kill him. You know, I'm kind of thinking he is probably at this point he needed to get to where he was going, and it would have taken more time for him to kill them.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's got it's not going to be very fun for him to kill him when he can't sit there and have spend the time to do it properly.
Well, it depends on
yeah,
if you see him as similar or the same as the Warlock in the sequel, because the Warlock in the sequel does do that to just random people for no apparent reason.
Yeah,
Um,
but would he do it if he was in a hurry because he needs to get to where the other book is before like Redfern and Cassandra get there, you
well, it
know?
I
depends
think
on
it depends. I
your
think it
outlook.
depends on. Well, I was gonna say, I think it depends on what spell was in the grimoire. Like, is there a spell to, kill two people super quickly in a way that's fun? Maybe
Well,
there is.
well, keep in mind that in the sequel, he turns a person into a freaking Picasso statue simply because he's a rich guy. I think he just has. I think that for this film, I truly don't believe he knows Redfern and Cassandra are there. So he's not in a hurry for his sake, like a hurry. He's in a hurry, but not like pressed for. There's no ticking time clock. There's no ticking bomb for him to finish what he's doing. So I think the way depicted in this film, he would leave them perfectly alone. Because this film is not designed to be like a high body count thing, and Twai is trying to craft a really good film as opposed to one that just is concerned
Yeah.
about body counts. That's why there's not that many deaths in this film. I think he was not concerned with that type of story that he was telling, unlike the sequel, which is very much concerned about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's better to do it this way
Yeah,
because when your evil character chooses not to kill people, it makes it scarier because then you don't know. It's like, oh gosh, it's like No Country for Old Men. It's like when the gas station scene in No Country for Old Men is super scary because he makes the gas station attendant call it and flip the coin, and it ends up in his favor, and he lets him live. From
Yeah.
then on in, you never know who he's going to kill.
Yeah.
He might let somebody go because the coin says so, or he might decide that these kids. Yeah, sure, these kids have seen me when he crawls out of the car all bloody and he's got the suitcase with him, but the sugar doesn't kill any of them, even though they've all seen his face.
Yeah.
He decides to hobble off and go away. You never know what's going to happen, and I think that's a better way to do that with this guy. Is you never know, he might decide to skin you and eat your blood, or he might just leave you go, and you might have a weird curse on you. You might hobble or might be blinded, but for the most part, whatever it is, it's bad, but you might be okay.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. This is how I think about it. If Chaz at the very beginning could have given him the ring,
Yeah, he would have been
without
just
Chaz,
fine.
I think he would have been just fine. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for him. He would have gotten what he wanted. He would have gotten the ring he wanted, and then he probably would have just left, to go to something else, or he may have cursed him a little bit, just a little.
He might have, although it doesn't explain why he ripped out his tongue with his mouth. He probably needed a snack.
Yeah.
He hadn't eaten. He just came 300 years, dude. He hadn't eaten yet. He needed
Well,
something.
the dude's gonna make him an omelet, you know?
Yeah, but he got to have tongue omelet.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what an omelet is. He doesn't know if it's edible or not.
But he does know about eating tongue, because they used to eat all that. They used to eat all the pig back in the.
By the way, we didn't mention this when we talked about that scene, but there's a really great shot. There's he takes the tongue, throws it onto the skillet. The skillet it starts sizzling, and then it cuts to like an omelet folding in half in the restaurant, and it's just it's such a great cut.
It's great.
Smash cut, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that is kind of a slasher trope I've noticed in the 80s. There was almost always a smash cut from the killer trying to cleave some flesh or something, and it would cut to somebody cutting steak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. It's kind of gross you out. But
Yeah.
at the same time, that omelet still looked delicious.
Someone is hungry. But like we mentioned, like they go to this graveyard, which is clearly a set, and
Yeah.
the gravestones are very fake, and they know
So
that's on
one of them gets blown over by the wind too
yeah, at the end of
during
the
one of the
movie.
scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And never stops. I never don't notice it. But like
Yeah.
he's got to make sure that it is consecrated ground. So he's got the unholy blood of the warlock on it, which even while dried
On the weather vane in it.
on
It's
the
like
weather vane, which he
yeah.
uses like a spear and a javelin, stabs into the ground and it makes a hissing.
Yeah.
So there you know. That's how you know. And then they'll go to find the grave. There is a grave that it's in, and just so happens it's his grave. Like, oh no, what are we gonna do? Was like, well, I mean, we just look at it and this, and then I can't remember why it is. They realize, oh, we don't have to open it and see your petrified corpse. We know that the book is in there.
Yeah, because they think it's all on consecrated ground until they start walking out and they see,
Uh,
Cassandra sees the empty graves and then she sees the signs saying that the graves are being moved for condominiums, which is very prevalent in our day and age now. Condominiums every freaking where.
I really like the way that she like figures stuff out in the second half of the film. Like, I mean, the whole first half of the film, she's trying to get her youth back, but I really like the way she becomes very
proactive.
Proactive with agenda or
Yeah.
Agency is the word for the second half of the film.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
Yeah.
And that's when she takes the weather vane and puts it in the ground, thinking that because the wall is broken, one half of the wall is on consecrated ground, the other half's not, because they've been moving graves, and that's how they figure out he's no longer on consecrated ground because they've moved the graves. And then
his grave is no longer on consecrated ground. So now they have to open it up and get but of course he can't beg. He can't look. He can't look to see his own corpse. But this is where we get the temporal weirdness, because like, okay, it begs the question: what kind of time continuum are we dealing with here? Because every time travel movie, and this counts, has rules, and like Back to the Future had very specific rules, but they were dealing with kind of a sort of a nonlinear causality there. Well, no, it was half linear, half not, because it's stuff that if you went back in the past, changed something, it affected the future in Back to the Future. Or if it's Star Trek, you go back in time, you don't change the future, you end up making an alternate reality. So with this, it begs the question: wait a minute. So he was so like in the original timeline, he was buried with the last few pieces of the page with just his birth date and name and a pentagram on his tomb. And now he has been taken out of, or he takes himself out of his time by jumping into the vortex with the Warlock in 1691. And now to here, but so then there's the question that he asks himself is like, well, how are you going to get back? Well, obviously, if we're dealing with linear causality, he has to go back. So the fact that he's dead in the ground, well, that leads you to believe that he's successful, because that means he goes back to his own time at the end. Otherwise, if he isn't successful, then there would be no grave with him. And there might be a grave, but there wouldn't be a corpse.
I think, I mean, and of course, all that is true in the movie because he does go back and he does do all that. But the character doesn't put it together here. It's a very traumatic thing happening, with seeing your own grave, and he's not thinking level-headedly, and she's not necessarily thinking level-headedly either, because she's more got the concentration on trying to move the book to the right place, because it really doesn't matter at that point that the book was successfully there. It means he went back, but it doesn't mean that they succeeded in getting the book to where it needed to be past that, because he may have went back and put the book where it needed to be. I don't know. It's a little convoluted, but it's kind of funny too, because it is very interesting actually that his corpse is there. And sometimes in some movies, like you can't touch, like Time Cop, they can't touch the other person. If they're the same person, but it's a corpse, so I don't know how much that would matter anyway, because he's not alive anymore.
I don't know if that would
Yeah.
matter either, but like to me, the only thing that makes any sense is if we're dealing with what they call in physics, what we call in there's two theories of 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 time and causality, which is there's the A theory of time, which is what we know of as linear, where it's the past, present, and the future, and the only one that actually exists is the present.
Yeah.
And the past and future don't technically exist. But in the B theory of time, there is a nonlinear theory where the past, present, and future all coexist at once. So if that is what we're dealing with here, then that would make a little bit more sense, because then that means that what we saw in the beginning was was interrupted by whatever started the devil wind in 1691. That created that basically Samael or whatever, the devil in the present reached back into the past, plucked out, because it's all coexisting together, plucked out the Warlock and accidentally Richard E. Grant as well to the present so he could get the thing, the grimoire together to try and end all of reality, past, present, and future. So that's the only thing that makes any sense. And I think that that's correct because, spoilers at the end, after they're successful in stopping the Warlock and Richard E. Grant is zoomed back through that little time tornado, it goes to his grave and new writing is there on the grave because now the past has been changed.
It
a little bit.
it almost seems like the wind tunnel itself makes the inscription. It seems like it
Doesn't
fights
it?
it.
Yeah.
So I mean, even more questions from that because if is Redfern the wind tunnel to begin with? Was he always the wind tunnel?
What?
So,
Blowing my mind.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Blowing my
yeah.
mind.
So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but it's weird. That does it adds more questions. Or is it simply he went back in the past and wrote the inscription, but he changed once the inscription's there, it's changed. That's something that wasn't there before, and it's there now. So unlike the book, yeah. So I mean, it adds a whole new layer of questions to the time travel aspect of the film because apparently the that could be changed and there wasn't really that. I mean, I feel like it happened right then. This is like an in the moment thing, because the inscription that he writes is like, I shall remember you always till time and times are done. And it's like say if he went back in time and he decided to write that on his grave. He lives the rest of his life, and you think he's just going to be thinking about her the rest of his life, and like, I better write that on my grave so she sees that. I feel like that's in the moment. That's the way he felt right then, and he wrote it with the wind tunnel.
I'm pretty sure that's what she thought. That he's thought about her the rest of his life. I think that's what she thought.
I think that the way that they ended with them almost kissing but not really kissing is like he found a replacement for Miriam, which was what drove him to kill the Warlock for so long. I think for his character, he doesn't need that drive anymore. When he gets back to his own time, now he has so-called. This is where our invisible romance comes in. He has a different love. He knows he will never see her again because she's in the future and he's stuck in the past. And that's just,
I guess he is kind of a romantic character. Like he's basically loves his. I mean, his wife's dead, and he's kind of carried that, and now he's got something else new to carry.
Yeah, and he doesn't have that sense of vengeance anymore because to him he's vanquished the Warlock. The Warlock's dead and gone because he crushed his skull with the bottom of his foot,
which is awesome.
And so now he can live the rest of his life without having to think about witches and warlocks until, of course, unless there's more of them, which we could also develop in another series as Redfern is out there killing and taking names when it comes to warlocks and witches. Real ones,
Yeah.
not ones during the whole scare. He's not coming to Salem and shit.
No, well, actually, yeah, he's in Boston, so it would be a bit of a trek. Not that far, but he could have done it. He could. Well, yeah, I don't know.
Well, we did miss a little bit of the fight. I don't know if we need to really dwell on it, but there was a couple of interesting things that happened because the insulin shot does come into play.
Oh yes,
You
yes.
know,
Because you say that he vanquishes the Warlock, Kevin. That's technically not true, because this is a great little twist on that. Where no, she vanquishes the Warlock because Richard E. Grant decides to get all macho-y and challenge his foe to a fist fight without magic. He was like, I got the pages, you come here and get them. And he's like, no, I got your girl. You come here and get her so I can get the. And he's like, come on, just come and fight me without magic if you're able. And he's like, oh, I think this might be fun because then I can draw it out. And then he goes and they have a little fist fight. But then but then Richard E. Grant gets the upper hand and shoves his head into the consecrated part of the graveyard, and it burns his face like acid. And he's like,
yeah. Well, he kind of cheated there when he did that. It broke the rules. So then the Warlock's all right. Now it's like on,
Yeah. So then he puts some like magic fire in his mouth, and he vomits it out, which is a really cool effect.
Yeah, and it goes on for a while. Yeah, it kind of messes him up pretty good, Yeah.
Yeah, but then he takes Lori or Cassandra with a K, throws her, which now he has super strength. That's part of his power set now. And he goes and into the water. It's just like pond of salt. I guess the bay or whatever is. And set. No, we're in Boston. We're in Boston. There must have been like an inlet. It wasn't a river. It's like an inlet or something. Because she's in there and she's like all wet, and she goes, salt water, and she has a bing Eureka moment and gets out her diabetic supplies and takes 2 needles and goes under. And while all this is happening, the Warlock, Mr. Great, the late great,
Julian Sands.
I'm sorry. What was his first name?
Julian Sands.
Julian Sands gets to have a villain monologue moment. And if only his character had just got right down to it. Because he gets the book together, he says the incantation, and the lost name of God appears on the front cover of the book. And I love how it spells it in Hebrew at first and then starts to change because the book remembers, oh, wait, you can't read Hebrew. Although technically speaking, if he were well-versed in magic, as he supposedly is, he should be able to read Hebrew because that was one of the texts of alchemy.
Yeah.
And spell books and stuff is like the Key of Solomon, which you would be able to read that in Greek or Hebrew. So, but anyway,
that's when one of the tombstones falls down in the background too. It looks really fake.
Clearly, the cardboard tombstone just falls down, and he's like, "I know thy name. It is," and that's when Laurie's singer. He's all villain monologue and looking up at the heavens and cursing God. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, bam, Laurie just comes in and stabs him in the neck with 2 syringes.
He covers his mouth so he can't say the name and then stabs her.
I didn't notice the mouth thing.
I never noticed it too until I was paying attention. Yeah, she covers his name. I mean, covers his mouth from saying God's name and then stabs him in the neck with the...
Yeah, saying God's name backwards, which would unmake everything, because the idea is that when God said, let there be light, basically when he used the word to create things, that he used his own name, his secret name, which is also like a big thing in occultism, this idea of if you know the name of a spirit, you have power over it. That's a big real thing. And again, Pauline did his research.
Yeah.
But she
says
him, injects
him.
Yeah.
She says a line.
She says the line.
Yeah.
She says, "You want to give it a spin?"
Well, I mean, I don't know, I'd write it down right, but she does say something like "try salt is water for the brain" or something like that.
She says "try salt water, fuck brain."
Oh, okay, yeah. Because it's funny because I have water foot brain written down. I'm like, it's definitely not foot. I think I was doing talk text on my phone and it did that. But yeah.
Yeah, I do that too on my phone, and it comes up with some weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great kill line, but you know what, guys? I think we can do better.
Well,
Because
you do have to keep in mind though, you needed the salt, but
Yeah.
I'm sure Honor's not going to say that because otherwise the audience is going to be like, why did that work? Inject him with insulin? I don't know. You know?
Well, you know what? I have figured some things out. Is there?
Yeah.
There's four of these because we like to do here, ladies and gentlemen, is our Schwarzenegger alternator, which is when we like to, or by we I mean me, likes to take likes to take the kill line situation when the hero vanquishes the monster or when the monster vanquishes its victim. Like there's usually a quip or a saying, and I like to imagine that the king of quips himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, would be able to give us some really good lines to vanquish our Warlock that are a little bit better than try saltwater fuck brain.
It's gonna be hard to
Although,
beat, I gotta tell you.
hearing it in Schwarzenegger's voice probably would be good too.
Yeah.
Saying like, try saltwater fuck brain.
Oh yeah. He would have killed it. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's some alternatives they might have gone with. So here we go. Number one, boom, ding. Say hi to your father for me. Tell him he sucks.
Okay.
Number two, this was a little friendlier. Hey, it's just a little salt water. Nothing to get fired up about.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Because he
Gotta-
explodes.
Yeah.
Number three, that's 2 syringes. One for my gay boyfriend and one for making me old.
Okay. I
Okay.
got you. Yeah, but I was a little confused, but you're taking it from Cassandra's point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See? Yeah.
Yeah.
One for my gay boyfriend. And finally, number 4, round us out. Check your blood sugar. Check it often. We got an invasion here from Wilford Brimley. Hi, Mr. Wilford Brimley. How you doing? And he just left. He had to just tell us a very important message about diabetes. And that was it. Diabetes. Not diabetes. Diabetes.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy was great in The Thing and the Cocoon movies. Yeah. And those diabetes commercials,
But yeah, she stabs him with salt water and his veins pop out all over his face. And he just levitates and just boom, bursts into flames and becomes basically Warlock beef jerky.
It's a cool effect though, when those veins pop out of his face and he's actually got sparks of fire. It's all practical stuff. He was actually on fire when they were shooting it, and he had like these prosthetics on his face. He's like these pumps that made the veins just pop out. It's a cool effect.
Yeah,
that's probably the best one in the movie, really.
Yeah,
the practical one. Anyway. Yeah.
And then he just plops to the ground. It's this little skeleton, this charred skeleton. And when I love how when the camera's
eyeballs.
It's with eyeballs. There's still eyeballs in his sockets for reasons. But like I love how his rib cage slowly collapses and like he's slowly starting to crumble to pieces, but his bones are pretty much intact. Except of course for the skull that just kind of moves a little bit and then Grant steps on it. But I feel like they were a little irresponsible here because they kind of just leave his bones in the cemetery when they clearly should have just gathered them up, put them in a sack, kept burning them, and put some live cats in a basket underneath it. Because that is the prescribed way to dispose of a warlock. You need to burn him with some live cats in a basket underneath him.
Right, yeah.
And that's I'm sure that's the reason why he came back in Warlock 2, The Armageddon.
If you believe it's the same one.
I do. I mean, they would have gotten Julian Sands back. I think it's the same guy, but he's definitely not the same guy in the third movie. That's for sure.
No, I think it's just different Warlock characters, to be honest with you. They just brought Julian Sands back because after the success of the first one, I think that's who people wanted to see was Julian Sands.
I mean, it does. I mean, it does kind of make you wonder, like, okay, if they resurrected him, why does he no longer remember the name of God?
Yeah.
So then we have one other scene. She buries the book in salt and the salt flats, So
Yeah, a real place.
That was a good, yeah, that was a good way to end it, though. That's a nice scene to end it on right there, though.
Yeah, she doesn't bury it very deep. I don't know how much of a problem it's going to be. She buries about a foot deep, but
Doesn't matter. It's in the middle of
yeah,
nowhere, the largest salt flat. Like she had to drive out there. There is no warlocks
yeah.
going out there in the middle of the salt flats to just randomly look for it. I think that
Also, yeah, you're right. Also, it's the largest dump of salt. They're still dumping salt there. So
Yeah,
eventually,
more.
that book is going to be under like a mile of salt.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. I think, and again, it makes me think of the ending of Terminator, because how does Terminator end? In a flat, desolate land where Linda Hamilton is driving off into the sunset, or in this case, the horizon. So again, this is Terminator. It's totally Terminator, which makes me wonder if maybe the sequel will feel like Terminator 2, where it's basically a lot of stuff from the first movie just amped up to 11.
Well, I guess we will get to that when we discuss Warlock, the Armageddon. And for all of you out there, you'll have to just wait and listen to that episode.
Yes. And actually, I'm looking forward to it because, I don't remember, because when I was growing up, I remember loving this movie so much that, when I saw bits and pieces of Warlock the Armageddon, I thought, yeah, I'm just not interested. It looks, I don't know, something about it turned me off.
Oh, I love that. I love both of them.
Yeah. So now I'm thinking maybe I'll give it a shot now, especially now that they're all available on Amazon for free if you have Prime, which we do now.
So, we will have a lot to talk about when we get to the second one. But from all of you out there, what we love to do is we love to rate the movies between 1 and 5. 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. But what we love to do is we love to attribute a object, quote, or saying to our ratings. What is your rating and the object, quote, or saying to attribute to it for this film? And let's start off with you, Thomas, since we start with you, Dave, at the top of the show.
Why, thank you, Kevin. I was actually going to cede my turn to Mr. Watkins here, but you know what? I'm gonna respect your wishes because you're the host of this show, and I should respect the host's wishes. So there's a lot of
make sure you let us know 3 items that you weren't going to use, so we have nothing to pick from.
I'm hoping you're not going to pick mine. That's all I can say.
Oh, he's definitely taking it.
I think you already know. I think you already know.
Yeah.
I think you already know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I know.
You already know. I mean, I actually thought briefly about using maybe one of his cool his cool witch finding objects or a witch finding weapon or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe even Mary Warnoff's eyeballs. I thought about using those.
You could use that. Yeah.
No, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to do this. What I think is the most important thing in the movie, the symbol that really should have opened and closed this movie, the marvelous and terrible object that is, in fact, the proper way to kill a warlock. I will say that this movie, to me, is 3.5 live cats in a basket out of 5.
Well, luckily, I wasn't going to pick the cats. That turned out pretty good. Yeah, I mean, the cats ended up, since they ended up not being important, but they should have been, like you're saying.
They should have been, but I am thankful that nothing happened to them.
Yeah.
Although weirdly, now that I think about it, historically speaking, cats have been familiars for witches.
Yeah.
You would think this guy would love cats.
Well, I think it's like a black cat. These are all kind of orange looking cats with black stripes, I think.
Tabby cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so cute.
All right.
So what I'm going to pick is, of course, the weather vane.
Yeah.
So and then I'll give it 4 weather vanes.
Okay. So I was about to come through this computer screen and strangle you, Thomas, for choosing Mary Warnoff's pairs of eyes, because that's going to be mine. As usual, you always pick mine without actually picking mine. But instead, you're lucky. You're lucky I had a backup because I love this object so much. I'm gonna give it 4.5 of Redfern's whips that he sculpted himself with his own saliva.
Ugh.
Almost picked the tongue omelet. That was my backup. If Thomas picked the weather vane, but
Yeah. I was like, maybe I should the witch compass. Then I thought one of you guys might do that, and I said, no one's gonna pick the Mary Warrenov's eyes. No one. And then so I had to come up with a back.
So why do you say 4.5 stars when you say it's so high like that?
I love this.
Yeah,
movie.
that's generous, dude.
Huh? I loved it more than I did when I was a kid because I could see the writing and the care that went into the crafting this film in the 80s. Now, we all know that in the 80s, a lot of the horror films in the 80s, we saw a crap ton of slasher movies that were kind of like highly, highly forgettable. But yet they have these huge cult followings. I've never understood that. And yet this film right here is a film that, by all intents and purposes, has been forgotten, despite the fact that we have our, 2 sequels to it, which, have also been pretty much forgotten. They had their heyday in the early 90s and then were completely forgotten. And I don't hear anyone talking about them, which is why I put it on our list to talk about them, because I have no other friends who have ever mentioned Warlock as movies that they've watched. None. I seem to be the only person who absolutely loved this fucking movie when it came out in '89, and I've still up until like I said, I think the last time I saw this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I bought the third part on VHS because I hadn't seen that in a long time. And I still love the movie. I loved it more now because I'm actually paying attention to the details and the writing. And I always forgot that Jerry Goldsmith did the score. And when I was rewatching it, I was like, God damn it. There's so much stuff about this movie I still freaking loved. And I love it now more because I love Richard E. Grant, who I enjoyed as a kid watching this movie, but that's not the reason why I watched the movie. I watched the movie because of, Julian Sands and Lauren Singer. But now I still think this is a great movie. I think other than the fact that there might be a couple of a little bitty small flaws, and I forgive 80s movies for what we now consider questionable visual effects. I'm gonna say visual effects.
They get a pass for it. What's interesting though is like in 1993, which is only like a few years away from this, when they did Hocus Pocus, all of that flying stuff looks really good. They had like a completely different way of doing it by the time they did that film.
Yeah, they had a bigger budget though.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's a comedy, and you have freaking Bette Midler and Sarah Jessica Parker. Okay, I can't remember the other actress. Like to save my.
Yeah, I think it's Kathy
and Jimmy.
And Jimmy, yeah. I knew I was gonna butcher her last name. I'm glad you picked that up.
And also, they had broomsticks in that movie.
Yeah.
So clearly, they didn't fly properly. They needed to take an unbaptized child and cut his skin off and boil his fat and drink it. That would have allowed them to fly properly. Yeah. But,
Well, I almost can guarantee you they did that. They just didn't say it in the film.
That's the other thing is. And the other thing is, I hands down think this is probably the best depiction of freaking male warlocks in any film that I can recall.
It certainly is the best one where they use the word.
Yeah.
I like the movie a lot too. I did rate it 4 stars. I was just curious why you rated it so high. I agree. I like it a lot, but it does have some flaws. But all movies are going to have some flaws. But I completely don't. I can overlook them and even embrace the flaws at the same time. Sometimes like a flaw can make it more entertaining.
Well, yeah, and this goes back to the fact that how I rated when we watched the movie The Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, or even Darkman when we did those. The ideal that these movies are probably not great movies, but the thing is, I grew up on them, and even now, 30, 40 years later, these films still, in my opinion, hold up extremely well to my adolescent brain pan 30 years ago. But I now understand a lot more about the art of filmmaking and the ideal of the art with writing and crafting a movie. And I still love these movies, and I will still go back and rewatch them over and over again. It's not so much like a guilty pleasure movie, like say Weekend at Bernie's 2, which is obviously a bad movie, but for some reason it's so damn fun to watch.
Yeah, I like it too, man. I like that. I saw that in the theater. The freaking voodoo. They bring it back.
Yeah,
You see that when they bring it back in voodoo?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So the thing is, this movie, if I hadn't rewatched it, to be honest with you, I probably would have given it a 3.5, 4, because I always thought it was great, but I never took in consideration the writing of it. I never took into consideration Jerry Goldsmith's amazing score with the film, and I didn't really know who Richard E. Grant was until much later in the film. And so now I can rate it higher, knowing that I've taken all of that and everything that you guys have talked about and kind of now reassess the movie itself. I probably now will think the sequel is not nearly as good as when I saw it as a kid, because I don't even remember it being as close to being well written as this one was.
Well, but yeah, from what I remember of the second one, I think I saw it a few years ago, maybe, but it's very entertaining, but it's badly written. I think that I can even remember like one of my friends like hated it so much he thought it was like a terrible script, and he thought it was. I remember just trashing it. I'm like, well, I kind of liked it. It was kind of fun.
Well, maybe we should actually watch the third one and then watch the second one, because whatever the shortcomings of the second one can't possibly pale in comparison, can't possibly be worse than what's going on in the third one.
Yeah, and what what it is, like the second one has druids in it, I think, and it's funny when they always go to druids, like in Halloween 6, and like I've never reminded druids being in stuff, but I think some people once they hear that they're like, man, this movie's stupid, man. Talking about druids for rune stones, it's like rune stones,
Yeah, I don't know, but you made me thinking. But you made me think of something, Kevin, that I've never thought of before, and it's totally making me see things in a whole different way, which is this. If they use voodoo to make Bernie's corpse move and
which
dance,
is awesome,
and dance and Weekend at Bernie's 2.
There's a goat in that too,
Does that make Bernie in Weekend at Bernie's 2 a zombie?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, okay. If that's the case, then guess what? That movie is a horror movie then. It is a zombie movie, and it falls under our purview.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I don't know if we. Oh my god! I don't know if we can get. We'd have to really try hard for that one, unless we decide we just gonna do Weekend at Bernie's and a double feature, Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Because... Oh no, the first one's not horror at all. He's just a corpse. The second one's got the voodoo. That makes it count.
Yeah. I think it's got some horror elements in it. I mean, it's horror comedy for sure, but comedy, it's so bad. It's great though.
That's all I said. Like, we know it's bad, but it's so funny and entertaining. It's just bad.
It's the kind of bad that people who liked the first one didn't like the supernatural elements of it, but I, on the other hand, loved it. I thought it I mean, of course, I knew it was terrible, but at the same time, I'm like, I like that they went that direction with it, and they kept it in the beach location and everything,
Well, yeah, it's the only that's going to preserve his flesh, because he should have rotted away between movies. But
Yeah.
Right. So for you, Thomas, we will add Weekend at Bernie's 2 to our list, and I'm gonna make you be on that episode when we do it.
Yeah, you know what you should do, Kevin? Have that be our April Fool's episode for next year. Our April 1st episode is Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Man, they really need to make a 4K of that though. They haven't done that. They haven't even done the first one yet, but you need to get on that. But
I think when we do it on our podcast, the good people at Arrow Video will be like, clearly there is demand for this movie, and they will put Weekend at Bernie's 2 on 4K, but they'll completely forget about the first movie.
Yeah, no, the Criterion Collection is the one that needs to handle Weekend at Bernie's 2, I think. So
yes.
All right, enough of Weekend at Bernie's 2. I do hope that you all have enjoyed us talking about Warlock. the first film in this franchise. Please make sure to check out the episodes for the other 2 films in this franchise. Remember to like, share, follow, subscribe. Do that thing you do with your favorite podcast or your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. Please make sure to check out our companion podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors. We have a lot of fun with this podcast, so please, we can't wait to bring you another episode. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, have a pleasant day. Broken the House. Take 3. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production. Written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers. Executive producer Kelly A. Inoka.